There was no fucking flub.
I was like, oh, say less.
It was not a flub.
Welcome to the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm the hostess with the mostest. My name is Michael Marcanio. I'm here with Tyler Revelis, also known as your boy T. Andre Navarro, also known as the Messiah.
Yeah.
And I'm also here with AMAC. Actually doesn't like to be called AMAC. I just realized that.
I don't mind it.
Mr. 645, he is here. We're here.
Mr.
Mr.
545.
545 now. He was promoted recently.
In the summer, it's 5:45. In the winter, it's 6:45.
That's
What's
super.
the time
Daylight savings?
No, 'cause
Yeah.
it's fucking hot.
Hey, Mike, get my mic.
Hold on. I don't know what's going on with your mic. Is your mic not going?
That's not going.
Maybe it's your headphones. Is it going through yours?
I can't hear him either.
I mean, it's
It
not.
looks like Andre's off the podcast. All right.
Wait,
Listen, I gotta go.
Yeah,
Immigration.
You should hear you now. No,
No.
I can hear you. You can hear it.
Can we get the real Navarro brother on here?
You're good.
Ivan, are you trying to come on? Or
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Now we go.
Sorry, I turned your gain down a little bit
Oh,
earlier.
you're
Sorry.
gain.
Your
Mike.
gain. Hey,
Well,
listen.
you just
it's
lost
not,
all your gains.
Sorry, I'm about to. The gyms are about
Sorry.
to close down on Friday. Fuck.
But listen, we're here. This is AVG Fantasy Football Podcast, episode 28. We did this last year where we broke down divisions, and we're doing it again. I think it's like a good way for if you're not paying attention as much in the offseason and you just want to have a good knowledge of like what happened in the offseason. Basically, like what if you're like, oh, what happened to this player? Oh, he's not on that team anymore. This is good for that. So we're going to quickly go through all these divisions.
Like, hey, you woke up in a coma and now you're awake and look.
You'd be surprised. You'd
Yeah,
be
Tom
surprised.
Brady's not on the Patriots.
How many
He's not.
times? How many
Yeah,
times
I've
do
seen
you?
some dumb shit like that happen?
I love it.
How many times do you go? That happens to me all the time. Where I'll like go to a draft and they're like, "Wait, I'm drafting this guy," and I'm like, "Dude, he's not on."
He retired.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gone.
Listen, but yeah. So we're doing that. We're going to touch on Derrick Henry, sign a new contract, among other things. But before we get into all the great info that we'll give you boys out there, you little boys, I'm gonna need you guys to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Go ahead and like the video that you're watching right now. Follow us on the Apple Podcast app. Subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. All that good stuff. Leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app. That actually really, really helps us in the podcast world. So we appreciate all of that. And this episode's recorded live. So every Thursday we record our Friday episodes live. So if you're listening to this in the future and you want to join in on the podcast, you can write into the comments while we're doing this, and we'll try and respond as quickly as we can. So yeah, did I miss anything? I don't know.
No.
I feel like
I think you got it all.
Dude, I got it all.
Dude, you got it
I got it all. Yeah.
It was not a flub.
It was not, dude. Exactly.
Not a flub. Sebastian Janikowski agrees as well.
Yeah. Do you want to?
He's here to kick it.
You want to start us off, baby?
We start off with Derrick Henry signing this contract extension or what?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can do
that's
that.
cool.
Hit it.
Let's talk about it.
All right, so Derrick Henry signs a 4-year, $50 million contract, $25.5 million guaranteed.
He's good.
Signed it right before the franchise tag had to be signed.
Deadline.
So I mean, what's your thoughts, Anthony? I know this was kind of like when your bust guys, not necessarily saying he's gonna bust, but you're just saying like his
ADP.
draft price was a little too high. Kind of like how we were saying previous years with Le'Veon Bell. Like he was going to the first round. We were saying he was more second or third round guy. I feel like we kind of hit that nail right on the head. So I mean, what do you think this really does here? Like I was listening to one guy and he was kind of saying that he is a little worried, 300 plus carries for Derrick Henry last year. Now that you have him tied in to 4 years and you're giving him $25 million, are you going to want to just feed him the rock 300 plus times for 4 straight years, or does a guy like Darian Evans get more involved? Because you want to you don't want to wear and tear him, especially if you're trying to make another deep playoff run like they did last year.
I mean, their offense looked good. So go ahead.
I don't know if it's really going to change how they're going to use him too much. I mean, I don't think teams. I don't know how I'm not the coaches, but I don't think they're thinking we're gonna have him for 4 years, so let's use him less because of that. I just don't really. I'm not of that mindset. It doesn't really change anything for me. Just plain and simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was more worried when they didn't sign him. I was like, they're going to run him to the ground and maybe not re-sign him, because they're not committed. But now that they have him, I mean, they're big on Darrington Evans. He's a bigger boy. So, I mean, a couple years ago, Dion Lewis was pretty effective. Last year, not so much. But I think it's going to be one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think they'll use him, and if he's effective in game, game script, if he's balling, they're going to keep giving him the rock. But if he's not as effective, I don't think they're going to force it. They're not going to just force 30 carries for 90 yards, So I think if teams can't stop him, they'll do it. I mean, it showed during the playoffs. Tannehill did good. They ran the 2-3 tight end sets, run play action out of it. I mean, 8 guys in the box, make them stop the run. I mean, the way the offense was going, it was good. That's probably why they signed him. He makes their whole team go. Without him, I mean, Tannehill's not doing what he's doing, I don't think. So
Yeah, no, for sure. If you touched on that one episode, Tannehill was kind of one of my man crushes. I mean, he led the league in play action percentage, yards off play action, all that stuff. So, what do they want to do? They want to run the ball with Derrick Henry and then hit the play action. A.J. Brown actually led the league in yards off play action plays as well. So, I mean, the formula's there. You just feed the ball to the big guy, hit him with the play action, play some defense. I mean, look, it got him out of nowhere. It got him to the AFC Championship,
for sure.
So yeah, I think they stick with that as well. I probably won't have a lot of shares, if any shares, of Derrick Henry, because I don't want to waste my first. I don't want to say waste. Maybe that's not the right word, but I don't think I'm going to use my first round pick on a guy like Derrick Henry. If I'm not getting one of maybe these top 4 running backs, I guess in a sense, I might lean towards wide receiver and then try to grab a running back in the second round. I just don't know if I feel comfortable wasting like I said, maybe waste is a bad word, but I don't feel comfortable using a top 10 pick on Derrick Henry.
Just other players you like more than him.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally at least, especially in a PPR league. If you're in a full point PPR league, I know we talk a lot of our rankings are half point PPR. But if you're in a full point PPR league, I mean, I don't think Derrick Henry's up there because I mean it's all rushing. He offers zero upside outside of one 70-yard, 90-yard screen pass. And I doubt he's going to do that on a regular basis. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I mean, what I looked up, they run 2 or 3 tight end sets, so they want to give the look of a run and then run play action. So I looked, they ran 2 or more tight ends, 437 snaps last year, 4th most in the NFL, and only the Raiders ran 13 personnel, which is 1 running back, 3 tight ends, and 1 receiver. They're the only team that ran that more than the Titans last year.
Yeah.
So they bringing out the big boys, giving that look, and then pop a play action. And Tannehill's athletic. He can do the rollout. He can scramble. He can
bootleg, yeah.
for sure. So
Roll out.
I think they're playing to their strengths. I mean, as you should.
Yeah.
So I think it's a smart move to keep the same plays. Do what you were doing last year. I mean, they should win. That division is tough, but I mean, I think that the winner of that division isn't going to win more than maybe 11 games at the most. Yeah. That's the most, with the Colts, Texans, and Titans beating each other up. So
for sure, yeah. I would say keep an eye out on Anthony's guy, Jonnu Smith.
Oh,
I think
man.
he has a big monster breakout season.
He's about to roll out.
Yeah, he's gonna ball.
But all right, yeah, that was just our thoughts on that right now. But yeah, we could jump into these divisions. We're gonna break down the NFC West. So the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Rams, and then the 49ers.
The Seahawks with the best Thursday night jerseys in the league.
Oh yeah,
he loves those.
Great, dude. Yeah,
He loves
Those neon green.
Dude, those neon green jerseys, they F word.
That's my shit.
Keep
That's my shit.
PG-13
Not a
this whole
flop.
episode.
Not a
One
flop.
episode.
So we got the Seahawks first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we usually, when we do these division breakdowns, is we stick with we go quarterback, running backs, wide receivers, and then go into the tight end. So
we'll touch on the defense too. We just throw it up there, whether we think they're
Above
draft
average.
worthy or
Draft
not.
worthy,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks, boys.
All right.
I tell you, didn't you say you kind of like Russell Wilson as like your league MVP?
Yeah, he's my league MVP, my early prediction. Finished as QB3 last year. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
A little. So
Why
one
should you like that?
I was like, did you play a drop while I started speaking? One thing with him is he actually was kind of low key inconsistent last year. It didn't match up with his finish. He had 40. Where is it at? I just lost it. About half his games were outside of the top 12 last year, so he was very up and down last year. The reason I'm just bringing this up is because I do think if you're going to spend a top 5, top 6 pick on Russell Wilson, I think he's going to be more consistent than he was last year. I think due to him coming out and saying like they want to throw the ball more, Chris Carson, yes, he's going to be ready for the season, but I don't think the running game is going to be as efficient as it was in the past. I think he's going to throw the ball more than he has in years past. So it's just going to lead to a little bit more consistency. So when you do use that top 5 pick, you don't want 43% of your games to be outside the top 12 if you're using on a top 5 quarterback. Realistically,
Yeah, for sure.
that's not what you want. So I think you're going to have a lot more consistency from Russell Wilson this year than you have going to year prior.
Yeah.
I like Russell Wilson. I do. He's my pick right now, early pick for MVP. Obviously, you got Mahomes and Lamar Jackson there, but I think Russell Wilson could have one of those years where he comes out 31 or more touchdowns. What was it? Yeah, 31 or more touchdowns in 4 of his last 5 years, and he takes care of the ball. He's gotten low interception rates. So yeah, I like Russell Wilson. I mean, he's one of those guys, like you said, you are gonna have to spend some high draft capital on him, but he's not. I don't think he's a guy who's gonna lose you your game in a given week. And like you said, we're not sure what's up with Chris Carson. We'll touch on him in a second. But I mean, you have the weapons. DK in his second year. Tyler Lockett just seems to be Mr. Reliable. You even get Philip Dorsett, who's just a good third wide receiver, and then you go get the savvy veteran like Greg Olson just to help as well. So yeah, I love me some Russell Wilson.
Yeah, the ceiling's a top 3 quarterback finish. I like to look at ceiling and floor. The floor is, he's kind of going somewhere where you took Aaron Rodgers last year, and due to his rushing ability, it's like you're not going to have the floor is not going to be outside of the top 12. He'd have to get injured for that to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like a top 3 finishes in the realm, and then inside the top 12 is all. It's just a guaranteed floor if he plays 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what you were saying, T, as far as MVP, I think he's one of those players that makes up for a team's deficiencies. Like, you wouldn't notice how bad their O-line is, but Russell Wilson makes it better. So I was looking at, because if you notice, the Seahawks were always, like, in really, really close games, and then they would, like, either obviously come back or make it interesting. But so I went back to look, and, I mean, for the season, they gave up more passing yards than they had. They gave up more total yards than they had. The only thing that was good for them, I mean, is their sacks. Russell Wilson only got sacked 28 times opposed to 48 sacks that they had. So he makes up for a lot of their problems. Their passing yards, he 5,900 yards total offense. So they give up more than they get. I mean, if you look at the numbers, all the way down the board, they give up more than they get. Completions, attempts, interceptions. They only had 6 interceptions as a team. I think Russell Wilson just makes up for all their problems. Extending plays. The only thing they were good at was rushing the ball, and I'm worried because Chris Carson was obviously the big beneficiary of that. He had 278 carries last year, so that's obviously with the injury. I'm not sure how that's going to hold up, but I just think, I mean, Russell Wilson, that play right there, he just extends plays and makes them better. So I honestly see a regression from the team as a whole. I don't think they're going to win 12 games. I think Russell Wilson did as much as he could last year, so. Yeah, as a team, especially in that division, I don't know. I like them though, but just giving up more yards. I mean, looking at all the stats, their defense needs to step up too. Then, but I mean, to have a bad defense like that and win 12 games is impressive.
For sure.
So how you're saying Russell Wilson definitely makes them a lot better, than they really are, for sure.
We could jump to the guy you just mentioned, Chris Carson's. With an S.
Yeah, so Chris Carson finished as the RB12 in PPR, RB11 in half-point PPR. I'm just going to say out what they finished last year before we touch on the players.
I like that. I like it.
I'll show you like that.
I like it.
I just slammed my keyboard.
But yeah, Chris Carson, so 315 total touches last year, was the 6th most in the NFL. 15 or more carries in 13 of the 15 games. So you like seeing that. But he's coming off a hip injury. But if you listen to the episode with Dr. Cucci, a.k.a. the Medicine Man, I think he was saying that he should be good to go for the season, right?
I forgot, honestly.
Oh,
I'm
maybe
just
you have to go
I'm
check
just being
that
dead
episode.
check it
honest.
out.
I honestly forgot what he said about
He's a
it.
physical guy. I know he did say he should be good, but
I think he
keep
was
an
more-
eye on how fit, like, re-injuring because he is a physical guy.
I think he was a little bit more worried about his than he was Landry, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I got to ask the Coochie.
Because one was a labrum hit, right?
Yeah. But, I mean, back-to-back years, Chris Carson, 1,150-plus yards, 7-plus touchdowns. So what's your guys' thoughts on him right here?
I mean, the good thing is I think last year was his ceiling. The good thing is if you are drafting him, you don't have to draft him at RB11 or 9, 10, where that range where his ceiling was. He's going closer to RB16, 17. To me, I probably won't, just like you said, I'm not going to have a lot of Chris Carson because I'd rather take more of a premier receiver right there and go back and get someone similar like a David Johnson around later, or I mean even David Montgomery I'm not mad at, a round later or 2 rounds later. So to me it's I feel like you saw his ceiling last year. I mean 275 carries, the 7 touchdowns, the 37 how many, I think it's 30 something receptions with 2 more touchdowns.
Yeah.
So to me I don't think it's going to go up. It could repeat and that'd be best case scenario, but if I'm hedging that it's going to be in the middle. And then I'm just kind of, from my own personal perspective, I'd rather take one of those receivers right there. I want to try and pursue the way this draft is unfolding is get 2 top 12 running backs and then just load up on a receiver. If I get 1 and 1, I'll probably try and take another top tier receiver there and then go with a running back in one of the next rounds. That's basically a similar tier in my eyes.
Yep. I mean, I agree. I mean, they got DJ Dallas. They tried to reach out to Devontae Freeman. He said no. I don't know about what's going on with Marshawn, but, they're just trying to get bodies in there. I mean, the way they call plays, they just need someone to be, Travis Homer as a rookie even looked decent, at the end of the year. So
yeah, and if they do give Carlos Hyde whether they're good carries or not good carries, 100 to 150 carries, and they do pass them the ball more, like I'm kind of predicting, his floor could be outside the top 24 if he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. So there is kind of the floor's. There is a little bit of a floor. That last year when he had that workhorse role, he was pretty safe week to week. But if he does split some time with Carlos Hyde, it could get, and you pay a top 16 price, you might kind of regret that price tag.
more like touchdown dependent this year.
He's coming into a contract year, so I mean, I kind of look at that because it's like a little extra motivation for these guys if they want to get paid. Especially him. He was a 7th round pick, so I mean, I think he's made maybe like I saw it was like $3 million, if that. I don't even think it was that. Maybe like $2 million. So I mean, for him to go out and get a decent contract, he could be making anywhere of like $7 to $8 million. It's like a baseline per year. 3-4 years. So I mean, do you think that weighs into like what he could do? Or,
To me, no. I did some research on it actually about a week ago with contract players. Did 2 years. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
You have guys going. You have guys going into contract years who have terrible years. You have guys going to contract years who have good years. You can't really make anything out of it.
Yeah, but I will say though that a lot of players do seem to not, when they do get paid, they somewhat fall off. It seems like.
Like after they get paid, you're saying?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like in
that's
that
definitely been a
regard,
After they get paid, yeah.
within that logic, I would say that you would do better for.
Yeah.
But yeah,
especially-
I know it's hard to statistically like.
And then
Especially when they change teams and get paid, there's a pretty decent track record of them not doing nearly as well as they did like before they got paid. To Mike's point with that.
for sure. I mean, look at Eddie Lacy. He got paid and then ate hella cheeseburgers. I think he's still eating
cheeseburger
cheeseburgers. Him and Jamarcus Russell are just feeding each other cheeseburgers.
All right, on to the wide receivers.
Yeah, so we got Tyler Lockett. We'll start out with him first. Finished as wide receiver 13 PPR, wide receiver 14 half point. I mean, Tyler Lockett just seems to be like his go-to guy. I mean, their connection and completion percentage is like crazy. It's through the roof. I feel like he's kind of falling maybe with the emergence of DK. I mean, I am pretty big on DK, but I mean, 110 targets for Tyler Lockett, 82 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. It just seems like he's, I don't know, maybe like Russell Wilson's safety blanket. So I'm kind of thinking like both these receivers are going to have a lot of good value here, but you might be able to get Lockett a round or two later after Metcalf, because I feel like I do like Metcalf, but I feel like he's going a little bit higher. I mean, Tyler Lockett, second most red zone targets at 23. He had the 6th most end zone targets. So like I said, he's just kind of a guy that, you know, Russell Wilson trusts in, I feel like. And the rapport and the completion percentage is really good between the two. So I like some Tyler Lockett.
I think people are kind of on the DK Metcalf side of he's going to be the one that's going to be the number one, but that's far from a guarantee. Yeah, there's the upside, but I mean, there was even years where it was like Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett, and people would be like, oh, like Tyler Lockett could overtake Doug Baldwin. It just didn't happen. Doug Baldwin was still the one when he was on the field. He was just still the one. So that could very easily be the case again, where it's just Tyler Lockett's the one while he's there. That's who Russell Wilson has he just leans to a little more. I'm not saying they both can't be useful, but depending on his draft price, he might be someone I definitely have some shares of, especially in standard, because he's a high touchdown type of guy. 8, 10. I'm gonna figure he's gonna probably get at least a solid 7 touchdowns if you're predicting Russell Wilson to throw 30 plus. So especially in standards, maybe 110, 120 targets doesn't lead to consistent PPR, but in a standard league, if I can get him in the 5th, 6th round, I have 2 running backs and even 3 running backs, and I need a second receiver, I like him because I think you're going to get him in the 4th, 5th round. And if they do throw more, to my point, it only helps his targets and his volume and his potential touchdown upside.
Yeah, he almost is like I don't want to say like a Galladay who doesn't need a lot of targets, but he's similar to it. I mean, he had 24 less catches than Lockett, but only 157 less yards. So, I mean.
DK Metcalf,
yeah. He had 58 for 900, 15.5 yards per reception, which is great. 7 touchdowns. So I think depending on your league, he might be higher than Lockett in standard because you're not accounting for yards or catches. But I mean, 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. It's pretty close. Everyone knows Russell Wilson throws the best deep ball. I mean, in football, that's why they got him. So
sexy.
Yeah, I think DK will get up to 70 catches. Like Anthony said, I mean, I think 7 touchdowns might be his floor. If Russell Wilson throws for 30, DK is going to get at least 8. And I mean, they have another year to work together. I mean, another year in the offense. I think he surprised a lot of people. I mean, 900 yards, 58 catches. That's solid. And the other thing about it is he lines up outside. Like I want to say like 87% of the time. Like DK doesn't go anywhere other than the outside. To where Lockett, you can move him in the slot, so you can disguise and move him around, do different matchups. So I think like Anthony said, they're both going to be good. But that upside for DK is what I like as far as, 15 yards yak is good. But Lockett can also get you 12 catches in a game because I faced him when he did it.
Yeah,
like a bum.
I think it's going to be like a 1A, 1B scenario where, like I said, 110 targets for Tyler Lockett, 100 for Metcalf. If Metcalf can turn those 100 targets into more than 58 receptions, let's say, like you said, he pushes like 70, 75. He's going to go over 1,000 yards. Yeah. And, the floor of 7 touchdowns that's the floor, like you said. And his 17 end zone targets, DK Metcalf, that actually led the entire NFL. So Russell Wilson's looking for him in the end zone. You like seeing that. So, could he push 10, 12 touchdowns? It's not unrealistic.
And
either,
Russell likes him.
Either guy could, realistically. They both could push on 10 touchdowns, honestly. Yeah. I think they're both pretty relatively I've been doing a lot of floor and ceiling, so people, understand like where they can finish on the low side and high side. Both of them have top 12 in their cards. They could both of them could finish on top 12 just based off the touchdown alone. And then I'd say their floor is even probably worst case scenario top 30 wide receivers. That's worst case scenario. They're both going to probably finish inside the top 12 to 24 range.
And so one of them solid wide receiver 2s.
Yeah.
With some upside potentially.
Especially
one. But at least at the floor, like a flex guy.
The floor is a flex.
I always joke around, but there is a scenario where you could get Tyler Lockett as your 3rd wide receiver. You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
So it's like if he's your 3rd wide receiver, you're gonna have 3.
I just said it a second ago. I was like, you have 2 running backs, 2 receivers. You get Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you could have him. You know what I'm saying? As your 3rd wide receiver or your flex guy. I think you'll be pretty psyched with that because, like you said, you could have a top 25 guy.
Yeah.
At a receiver who's your flex guy.
And there's players where I feel like his name isn't. I like last year.
It's not sexy.
Yeah, I paid attention last year to a lot of these players and see where they fell. It could change this year, but he has that name where it's just like DK Metcalf is a sexy name because he's the fucking 0.5% body fat, fucking Hulk looking.
And his dad was in
he's
the
gonna be
NFL,
the monster, and Tyler Lockett could drop to. I'd hate to say it, but I could see a 5th, 6th.
Well, we've seen guys like Odell and some of these mocks have been doing Odell, Juju, like Landry, like those guys have been going like in the 5th round. Even like I really touches like you get to like the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Like there's a lot of really good receivers that are still in that area. So I think Lockett could fall to like. The 6th, 7th round potentially in some leagues. So, and I think if you're gonna get him in like the 6th, 7th round, I think that's a steal.
That's horny.
I was just gonna say his name. He has like a similar namesake as like Robert Woods or you know what I mean. Like they're kind of like all in the same category, but kind of under the radar, slept on.
And his dad's in the NFL, so he's showing him the offseason shit. He's like, I don't know if you can get any bigger than him. Motherfucker's huge.
If his name was Tyler Lockett, dude, he'd be
because that dude is jacked. All right, so what do y'all think about? Fuck. Some tight ends.
So yeah, they go out and they sign Greg Olson. I know, Mike, that was one of your guys. So what do you feel about Greg Olson?
I just think that, like, I don't know.
Oh, done. Drop the mic.
No, I like Greg Olson. I think that you can get. I'm all about getting tight ends and quarterbacks in the last couple of rounds, and I just think that for the value, you're getting someone who is used to be that name in the last round of the draft. I'm with it. That's, you know what I mean. So it's not like Sorry,
he's like a low risk, high reward.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, his ceiling is definitely like I know Tyler's pointed at multiple times in the podcast that the top 12 tight end finishes like 6 touchdowns or 6.5, something like that, right?
It's like 5 touchdowns.
Oh, damn, it's even lower than I thought.
Yeah.
So it's 5 touchdowns. So I mean, tied to Russell Wilson, we've seen the tight ends have success. If he is the guy, he will more than likely finish in the top 12. So his ceiling is a top 12 finish. To Mike's point, you can get him very late. His floor, if this is a like a 3-way split or even 2-way split, his floor is outside of the top 15 tight ends. So it's exactly what Andre said, kind of. But you're paying a low risk. You could probably get him off the waiver wire,
Probably.
or you can get him with your last
true.
pick.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not take the chance if you like are waiting on that tight end? So
yeah.
I like it. Like, like if you miss on tight ends, you're going late.
Or you could even if you do get a tight end early and you just throw him as like in the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think his value's tied if he could just stay healthy, because he is getting older and he just can't seem to stay healthy the last couple of years. After being what I used to call him Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable, because like he would just go out there and get it done for you. Like you set and forget it. In PPR, you're going to get 10+ points every single week. I never had to worry about it. I would always go out and get Greg Olson. So I think as long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll be out on the field majority of the time. Obviously, they'll probably run some 2 tight end sets, but I mean the touchdown upside for the tight end position in Seattle, we've seen it. Russell Wilson, when they get in close, they look for that tight end. The touchdown upside is through the roof.
It did seem like on the Panthers, it was like week 3 and 4, it would be like Luke Kuechly down and Greg Olson down. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, always.
Always week 3 and 4 too.
Yeah, those are exactly.
Just those exactly.
But you know what I'm saying? It used to always, I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping.
he was I don't know, for the injuries. Defense, you guys, I see him as a streamer defense. Someone I'm not really focusing on drafting.
Yeah, no, I mean, and like you guys, Olson, the way the Seahawks use a tight end, I just looked at Hollister and Will Dissly. Last year they combined for 64 catches for 611 yards and 7 touchdowns. That was between the two of them. 64, 611, and 7. I mean, they passed that 5.5 touchdown threshold. Will Dissly had 23 catches, 4 touchdowns. So he was more of a bigger body red zone guy, but like we said, Greg Olson's, he's a vet, so he knows where to be, and Russell Wilson will look for him. So I mean, like I said, 64, 611, and 7. I think if Greg Olson's healthy, he can be right around there. 55 catches, 600 yards, 5-6 touchdowns. I mean, he's not what he used to be as far as yards after catch, but he can still find the end zone and find the spots in the zone.
A late round lottery ticket is what
sure.
he is, pretty much.
Flyer.
Yeah.
All right, next team.
So the defense, I mean, you're saying streamer. My bad.
Yeah,
Streamer.
streamer.
I mean, I think we'll just touch on what Dre said. The defense wasn't very good because Russell Wilson was always having to come back.
They gave up a lot of yards.
I mean, and if they lose Jadeveon Clowney, then this is not a defense I'm drafting.
Yeah, no.
Streaming week to week
Quentin
matchups,
Dunbar.
maybe like if they're at home against a bad team. Obviously, it's hard to play in Seattle against the 12th man. So maybe like a streaming matchup.
Yeah, for sure. They got Bobby Wagner and company, so that's it.
Alrighty then.
Ricky Bobby.
All right, we can jump into the next team over here. We got the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, the Cardinals.
Cardinals.
Oh, the Cardinals.
Who's the quarterback for the Cardinals? Is
Oh,
it that
fucking
Kyler
Kyler
Murray.
Murray. Oh, James, dude. Now none of us can speak the whole podcast. It's just Drake.
Fuck you, Kyler.
I always tell that one.
Did you
Even
say
though his
Andre?
name's Kyler and not Kyle, I always do that one there.
Tyler?
All right, yeah. So you got Kyler Murray, the Rookie of the Year, finished as QB8 last year.
The Ocho.
The Ocho.
In case you
As
guys
a
didn't know.
rookie. As a rookie.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that we have a high up in our quarterback rankings, and everybody gets mad at us in the comments. They're like, "How do you have Kyler Murray above this guy?" I'm like,
And then I'm
"Dude,
always like, hey, dude, you know it's
fantasy."
fantasy?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, it's not my team.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
tell
like
you one reason why
Yeah.
he's so high. 544 rushing yards last year.
Sneakily.
That was the second most among
That's
all quarterbacks.
horny.
Obviously behind Lamar Jackson, he broke the record. But yeah, second most rushing yards for a quarterback, Kyler Murray, 544 and 4 touchdowns. So I know Anthony always touches on it. When you can add those yards on the ground and even those touchdowns on the ground, I mean, that just boosts your floor and your upside in general.
That's 100%.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at their offense. So they ran a 3 wide receiver set. I mean, granted, they got D-Hop, they have Christian Kirk and Larry Fitz. So they ran the 4 wide receiver set more than anyone by a substantial amount. But they ran 3 wide receiver set 36% of the time, 2 wide receiver set 23% of the time. They ran, this is crazy, they ran a 1 wide receiver set 1% of the time last year. 1%. When you have the Titans running that bitch 470 times, they ran it 1% of the time. That's what they did.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, I mean, they got weapons. You see they have the air raid. They got these bodies that they're going to spread the ball out and just make you man up and beat them. But now they got D-Hop. You got Kenyan Drake. Like I said, you got Fitz and Christian Kirk. I mean, they should be fun to watch. Now, they're going to win a lot of games. Who knows? But they're going to be fun to watch. I mean, they're like I said, even if they lose, they're going to be battling.
This is going to be one of the most explosive offenses.
I think
this is going to be an exciting offense to
hot take right here. I think the Cardinals are going to be the offense that everyone thinks that the Buccaneers are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be right around there. I mean, they had.
And that's Daddy's hot take of the pod.
I just to go to Florida ceiling, because I've just been doing that on pretty much every player. I mean, his ceiling is almost not to the extent of Lamar Jackson, what you saw last year, but that ceiling is kind of in there. I mean, if he rushes for, let's just say if he gets 650, throws 30 plus touchdowns, passes for 4,400 yards, he's probably the QB 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, he has that potential, like, week winning every week type of upside if it hits right. His floor, I mean, I think his floor has got to be at what it was last year, worst case scenario.
Yeah, QB8.
QB8. So it's like, I mean, you're taking a guy who's more than. I don't see him getting worse in the second season with another weapon, an elite weapon, not even just a average weapon. And then Drake, I mean, he's just going to help the rushing game. And he's, to me, last year at least, he was a better pass catcher than David Johnson was. So that even just helps him. And the offensive line got boosted. So potential to be a top, 1 or 2 quarterback, and the floor is very, very safe because of the rushing. So, you're not going to be mad if you take Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys are Kenyan Drake fans. So I'm just looking at, because I'm always intrigued about their personnel. So I have more like just personnel numbers. They only ran 19 plays all season last year without a running back, which is crazy.
So he's out there.
So you want their wide receiver for sure. They ran 5 wide out, but they ran 10 personnel, which is their second most common formation. I mean, they ran 4 wide, 346 plays. I mean, running 4 wide receivers. So, I mean, they just like to spread you out. I mean, they don't really like running they ran 19 plays with 3 tight ends all season. That's the 1%. 19 plays all year. And how many of those are goal line? Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
So we will not be discussing tight ends. So we could discuss.
Yeah, we will skip that. Yeah, but
we'll
I mean,
go to the running back position.
So that's good for D-Hop. That's good for Larry Fitz. That's good for Christian Kirk. I mean, it's good. He likes to get those guys. It's good for Kyler Murray. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury's out there. He's like, I don't know how many games we're going to win, but we're going to score.
Feel comfortable drafting Kyler Murray? I know we're kind of, some of us, me and Mike at least, I know most of us probably, wait on a quarterback, but, a guy who has top 5 upside, potentially top 1 upside, like you were saying, if everything goes right. I mean, what round do you feel comfortable drafting him in? Because I think he's going in, like the 5th round?
5th, yeah, he's going like the 5th. I don't think he's going to make it out of the 6th round in any leagues. Like, I mean.
So, you could stack up a couple running backs, a couple wide receivers, and then you take a shot on him right there.
It's I mean, man.
I do think this offense is going to be pretty exciting, and pretty
me too.
explosive.
Would you take him in the 6th?
Depending on the way the draft is falling. I mean, if I'm pretty stacked at running back and receiver, I feel good about it.
If I get
take a shot on it.
if I get D-Hop somehow, like say I'm like on the back end and I don't want that running back and I get D-Hop, maybe I'll consider. I'm not super big on double points, but like I said, the 326 plays with 4 wide receivers and 376 with 3, he's going to be out on the field a lot. So I'll take that.
Yeah.
And the Texans didn't pass it this much. And I feel like they're trying to prove a point to the Texans. Like, look what you gave us. Like, look at this new toy we got, you fuckhead.
For sure. All right, we'll touch on the running back right here, my boy.
Drake.
Yeah, my boy Drake. Actually, it's our boy Drake. I just always say my boy Drake, but
That's y'all boy. Get y'all boy.
I'm just So yeah, Kenyan Drizzy Drake. He's in a contract year, so he's making about $8 million on the transition tag. So I think he is one of those guys who's gonna have a little motivation, especially in this high-powered offense. I think he's gonna perform and put up some numbers, so he can get a long-term contract and get paid. But finished as RB 17 last year. PPR, RB 16.5 point PPR. which is crazy because those first 8 games with the Dolphins, they just did not use him at all. It was just blew my mind how they just didn't use him. But after being traded to Arizona from weeks 9 to 17, he was the RB4. And if you would have put him on a full 16-game pace with the Cardinals, he would have had 1,600 total yards, 16 touchdowns, and 56 receptions. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds pretty fucking good to me. Sounds like.
I like it.
What's funny is I was watching NFL Network like 2 or 3 days ago, and they're obviously we were playing games because we can't watch shit. But they were playing that Dolphins game where they like that the one where the Miami Miracle, and I was just watching Kenyan Drake run, and I was like, I mean, this fool actually looks pretty good. I don't know why the Dolphins actually let this dude go.
They just didn't utilize him right. I don't know why.
Like going back, I was like, Kalen Ballage is a fuck. He doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He literally took balls off the head.
I blame Adam Gase.
Yeah, Adam Gase was bad. Remember I showed you all those weapons he had, like all those bodies, like, and he just didn't do anything.
Adam Gase is an idiot.
Yeah, but yeah, and then
I think it's kind of a Drake thing too. I mean, just pissing off a couple. I've read some reports where he's kind of.
He probably didn't want to be there.
But
probably didn't want to be there.
Well, yeah, potentially just kind of being.
Because I mean, his first run with the Cardinals was like a 35-yard run on the 49ers. I was like, damn.
Yeah, being a big man.
Yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, no, he looked good. He's he's 26, but.
So he's going in like the second round right here, and honestly, like I'm trying to grab him in every second round I can. I mean, depending on who's there, who falls to me in a sense. But
dude, I hope in whatever draft we're in, I pick right before you in the second round because I'm taking your boy.
Yeah. So what I was saying for a 26-year-old, he's got a very little tread on his tires because he's been like backup, then he comes over here, like so he. I feel like he's 26, but he's got like a 24-year-old body. Even in college, he didn't get a lot. He was behind like Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, all those guys. So it's like. I feel like
he's still fresh.
Yeah, he's still relatively fresh for
He's been doing a lot
given the circumstances of an NFL running
back. But he's a 3-down back. I mean, he's a guy who can he can go out there and catch it. I mean, 68 targets last year. That was the 11th most, and 50 receptions. That was the 12th most. You know what I'm saying? I feel like even when he went to the Cardinals, it only got better compared to Miami. I mean, the running backs in a total over there in Arizona saw 104 total targets amongst the running backs. So I would like to think that he sees a big chunk of that. So could he push 70 targets out of the 100 potentially? I think that's a real possibility.
And he's not going to get off the field like we said. I mean, he's going to be heavily utilized in both facets of the game. So
I'll just touch. I'll just keep doing ceilings and floors. That's what I'm here for. I do floors and then I do
does
ceilings.
floors. He literally
that's
does
why I'm
floors.
up at 5:45 every morning. I mean, the ceiling is a top 4 potential. I mean, Tyler just threw out all the numbers and stats, and I mean, if everything goes right and he is who we saw for that, what was it, 8-week stretch? 9, 6, something, whatever.
8 weeks.
8 weeks. He's top 5 potential. The floor would be, we haven't seen him hold up for a full year yet, whether it's been in Miami or college or wherever. The floor is if something does happen and he does get a little nicked up here and there, or he does start to slow down halfway through the season and there is kind of some unexpected timeshare that comes in, but still relatively safe floor. I'm not going to put him out like a bottom 30 floor. I mean, I think I could see a floor of maybe in the 15, 16, 17 range where it's gets a little bit more inconsistent over the second half due to like him not being able to hold up. So, I mean, I think he's appropriately priced because if you balance that floor and ceiling, he's pretty much right in the middle of them. So, and he's one of the few running backs who probably has even. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he had a massive touchdown season. He could finish one.
I mean, with all those weapons, like Dre was just saying, they spread out the offense. And, I mean, for how bad that offensive line was, for him to put up that kind of production. I mean, even in Miami, we've seen Drake, with how bad Miami's offensive line was. It's like he would get handed the ball and he'd do a spin move in the backfield and then bust it outside to, like, make a 60-yard touchdown run. And it's just like, so he's elusive and he can make plays happen. And I think that's the one thing I like about Drake. He's like a big play guy. He's like a home run kind of play guy. And then you just tie him to a high-powered offense like that. Sign me up all day.
Yeah. All right, who we got?
But we could jump into the next guy. So you get DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know why Bill O'Brien decided to trade him away, but one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Hey, players fuck up,
Everyone in Houston is Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien.
Everyone in Houston is looking at Bill O'Brien like,
why is everyone so fucking stupid?
So fucking stupid, job.
Yeah.
But all right, DeAndre Hopkins finished wide receiver 5 PPR, wide receiver 5 half-point PPR. So what are you guys' thoughts here? He had 150 targets last year, 104 receptions, 1,100-plus yards, and 7 touchdowns.
Hasn't dropped a ball in, 2 years? Is that the stat they came out with, PFF? He hasn't dropped a ball in like 200 attempts. Something absurd. Yeah. He didn't drop one all last year.
I think he has the most catches on players' bodies in the NFL as well.
Oh, actually, before we finish, can
Like
I
he's
catch it on
claimed
his helmet, like his
the
thing.
most DB bodies in
Yeah.
the entire NFL.
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
Do you? I feel like DeAndre Hopkins adds to the offense as a whole. Not so. I don't know how his value. I would say maybe his value would be lesser or plateau. It would be like the same.
Oh, that was another bet we had. I said D-Hop would get 90 catches. Y'all said no.
Oh, okay.
That was the other one.
I will concur on that. I'll say no.
I
No?
think it actually
I think
helps.
it's 88.
So he was top 15 last year in targets, 146. Receptions, 104. He was second. He was 10th in receiving yards at 1165, and he was 13th in touchdowns. So is he going to get 146 targets? He still, maybe not 146, but a team that passes that much, I think he can still get 130.
I think they're going to be
He's had
better.
150 or more targets in 5 straight years in Houston.
And how many of those targets are Hopkins or is Deshaun Watson scrambling and barely getting it off though?
I don't know.
But
know what I
Kyler
mean?
Murray can do the same thing.
Yeah, they're
but
very
so
similar.
can, but I'm
very
saying that
similar.
I would argue that the line is better in Arizona than.
He's gonna. There's gonna be to your point of the personnel. There's gonna be 4 wide receivers. There's more options out there. So
But ain't no one D-Hop.
that's true. But I mean, try and divide up the target share, which I've done, and it's pretty. Like actually go stat Kyler Murray out. Look at how many pass attempts you want to give him, and then try and figure out where the targets go. And try and give D-Hop over 130, 135. It's pretty hard.
Well, I like to look at it on a per game basis because people like to get so over with the big numbers. So I just be like, what about 7 targets a game? Does he get 7 targets a game? Is that crazy?
But that's
I don't know. I think some games
I'm just saying
you can
7.
only see 3 or 4 though,
Yeah.
you know, and then maybe it's a Christian Kirk game, maybe it's a Larry Fitz game, you know, maybe it's a Drake game.
No, yeah,
you know,
7
maybe
is-
they're blowing them out and
Yeah.
they don't need to throw the ball as much. So
For sure. I'm just saying 7 targets a game. Is that that's kind of a high, you would say?
Okay,
I'm
how about
saying
this?
I don't know what
high,
you're trying
but
to
I
go
just
with it.
think-
Are you down to take DeAndre Hopkins in the first round?
Me? Yeah.
No.
And
I would not take him
PPR,
in the
I mean,
first
if I have
round.
the 12th pick, it depends on how I want to draft my team. But
12th pick's a little different because you're on that cusp.
well, that's
you're
what
on
I'm saying. It
that turn,
depends.
so
I'm not
I
going to
guess
take him at
it's
6, at
Right,
8.
that's what I'm
but
saying.
but
It's
at 11, 12,
You say
yeah.
all those top running backs are gone, and then you're like, oh, let me grab a top tier receiver. Are you grabbing Hopkins? Is what I'm asking, I guess.
I'd probably
would-
rather
I-
take.
I'm-
I'd rather take Josh Jacobs and Kenyan Drake right there, and get a receiver
I
Fuck that.
agree. Or Miles Sanders.
or Miles Sanders. So whatever. I'd rather go 2 running backs. Right
I don't know
there.
if I.
Yeah, it depends. But I wouldn't mind going like a Nick Chubb, DeAndre Hopkins.
If you burn your first round pick, let's
Or
just, talk
Joe
about, let's just
Mixon.
talk about his floor for a second, because his floor could be 117 targets, 115. You have to admit that's in the realm of possibility based off when you break percentages down. Trust me, do it and you'll see.
I mean, I'll just look at his. I mean, he's going
You're
to.
going to put a different team. He's Houston. He's not in Houston. He doesn't have all his receivers take up the targets.
Yeah, he's
But
going to a
let's
more
just-
pass-heavy team.
But I mean,
They're the
even
most-
last year, Larry
yeah.
Fitz only 109 targets, Christian Kirk 107 targets. So now you add a guy like DeAndre Hopkins into the mix. What's the ceiling for the targets? Like Anthony's saying.
I mean, 100 and I think you'll have less than last year. 130, 125. I mean, that's for a number 1 receiver. I mean, that's.
But
not,
I'm saying his floor is with these other top receivers like Julio Jones. Julio Jones isn't seeing under 140 targets.
Oh, he's going to get 100. Yeah,
But,
they're that.
so this is the point
yeah.
I'm trying to make is if you burn that first round pick on D-Hop and he sees 115, 120, the inconsistency you're going to get at that target level is not going to be worth that first round. If you're on the turn, essentially it's a first round pick. If you're
There's
taking-
going to be
Yeah.
a lot of this going on. with
yeah,
this
you're not going to be
Kyler
happy
Murray's.
with that. So to me, I'd rather go 2 running backs because he does have a floor a lot lower than he's had ever in Houston. His ceiling is, maybe he gets to 140 and you'll be happy with that. But he does have a lower floor than he's ever had in Houston.
He's going to be one of those guys like what you said, Anthony, like we said on Le'Veon Bell last year. It's like his draft price is just a little too high for me going in the first round.
Okay.
And, depending on if he, for some reason, falls in the second round. I mean, you never know. Things happen in the
Yeah,
draft.
like 14.
If he falls in the draft in the
Yeah,
second
I would-
round,
yeah.
then maybe I could see him, especially if I go, maybe I grab a Devontae Adams in the first round, then I fall back down and I get DeAndre Hopkins magically somehow in the second round. Like, I'm not mad at that because I could feel more comfortable with D-Hop being my 2
then-
instead of my 1.
And
But
then you get Josh Jacobs in the third round.
I don't know about that. But I have some interesting numbers right here for him. So his target share the last 3 years, D-Hop,
High.
31%, 33%, and 35%. Obviously, those are really nice numbers, and you like seeing that. That's what makes him one of the elite wide receivers in the
Especially
NFL.
with no Will Fuller. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's only happened 6 times in that 3-year span. He did it 3 of the 6 times. In 2017 and in 2018, he had the highest target share in the entire NFL.
Yep.
And then last year, he had the second highest target share, only behind Michael Thomas. The point what I'm trying to get right here is he's not going to see a 30% target share. He's not going to be the highest targeted or even the second highest targeted player in the entire NFL. You know, he could fall down to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th highest targeted player in the entire NFL. And I just think when you have so many weapons like a Christian Kirk, a Larry Fitz who's not going anywhere, Kyler Murray who can run the ball in, Kenyan Drake. I mean, you know, if they're scoring, let's just give them 3 touchdowns a game. I mean, how many touchdowns is he going to get compared to, you know, when he was with Houston? It's like he was the offense. You know, it was the DeAndre Hopkins offense. You know, there's just so many mouths to feed now. I feel like
who are you comfortable on the Texans last year having on your fantasy team? Right, like Hopkins is it.
I mean, the Cardinals are going to be behind a lot, I would say. So I don't know. To me, it's more of what you think about Kyler Murray because D-Hop doesn't drop balls. He didn't drop one all last year. So if you think Kyler Murray is going to make that next step as far as progression, then D-Hop's going to do well. He doesn't. If you put it in his area, he's going to catch it. So I don't care if he gets 118 fucking targets and you put it in the area, he's going to catch 90 of them. He don't drop shit.
No,
but if Kyler Murray, I think if Kyler Murray progresses, that's going to help D-Hop a lot. Like if he can make that next step, because he's only a rookie, you know. So if he can just make that next step, I just don't see D-Hop not balling.
Does he need the targets? I don't think Kyler's the type of person to force feed D-Hop, you know, if he's double covered, if he sees Christian Kirk or Larry Fitz or even Drake coming out of the backfield open and, you know, like why would he force it? I think he's smart enough, you know, and I like agree. And I think this is part of him making his, you know, leap into his second year in the NFL. Like instead of forcing it to D-Hop, I think if, you know, if it's not there, he might check down to his second or third reads, which will be, like I said, a Christian Kirk, Drake, or Larry Fitz. So, I mean, 109 and 107 targets for Larry Fitz and Christian Kirk last year, and now you add a guy like D-Hop in there. I mean, those guys aren't going anywhere. So, I mean, how many targets is going to go around is basically.
Yeah, it should be close. I think he'll take some Larry Fitz targets, like 10. Larry Fitz is getting old. I don't think he's tripping. He's just trying to win. He's not going to be out here demanding the ball. But, I mean, we'll find out. I mean, he's still a beast. He's, 85 years old?
Yeah, so we could jump into Larry Fitz right here. Finished wide receiver 35 in PPR, wide receiver 37 in PPR. I do think his best days are behind him. I mean, 109 targets, 75 receptions, 800 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But I mean, he's still Mr. Reliable. But that was that crazy stat where he's.
This is the thing with Larry Fitz though is I drafted Larry Fitzgerald
12 years ago
in 2016, and it was the same thing. Like, dude, he's done. This is it.
Balled.
And he balled that year. So like,
yeah, he finished wide receiver 11 on PPR, and he was 39 years old. I'm just kidding. He's 36.
But
I mean, even like for Larry Fitz, he's had 11 straight years with 100 or more targets. I don't think Larry Fitz surpasses 100 targets.
I think he's down in the 90 range.
I think so he loses. I'd say he had 109 last year. I think he gets 90.
So what's your thoughts on Larry Fitz? Because you do have the guy like D-Hop, you know, who's kind of taking over. I mean, you still drafting Larry Fitz? Or is he just like a flex guy, bench guy?
I think he's more of a bench depth guy.
Yeah, someone gets hurt.
Or someone you're picking up and dropping week to week on like matchups where it's like, okay, there's a good matchup. They're going to throw the ball a lot, and let's just say D-Hop has an elite corner, which I don't think you can shut him down, but let's just say there's a potential for him to have like a down game, and we're looking at like the P.J. Williams, where it was always like start your slot receiver against the Saints that week. So like that's where it's kind of. But as far as redraft goes, I probably won't have many shares of Larry Fitz because what's the ceiling? To me, it's like if I'm going to take a 10th, 11th round guy, I want someone who has a ceiling of being kind of more of a game changer for my team.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear crazy?
And I think it almost the same thing with Christian Kirk. But if I'm going to take one, I'd probably take Christian Kirk over Larry Fitz.
Y'all want to hear a stat that really is just, you know how I just throw random stats out?
His 4th grade teacher.
No, listen to this. Listen, you want to hear it?
Back in 1956.
No, this is a football stat. It's wild. Larry Fitz has more career tackles than drops.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before.
Bro,
yeah.
that just goes to show you how many shitty quarterbacks he's had where he's had to literally hawk somebody down and tackle them after a pick. He has more more tackles than picks. So he's more tackles than drops.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, being Kyler Murray, I know it sounds like dumb shit, but those are 2 sure-handed receivers. I mean, you got Fitz and D-Hop. I mean, what else could you ask for a QB? You got a stud, and then you got a vet who's not asking for the ball, who's not selfish.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see their team and have them lose to the Niners 49-40. So
yeah, right, dude. They beat the Niners when they're not even good.
Did they beat them? Did they beat them last year?
Not even good, bro.
Did they beat them? I don't know. Who cares? But
I think they beat them in San Francisco.
So what about Christian Kirk, Mike? I know that was kind of 1 year, guys. I
love Christian Kirk this year. I think, like you guys are saying, I think Larry Fitzgerald's targets go down, but I just think with the adding of DeAndre Hopkins, and now they're gonna put up offensive plays because they have Kenyan Drake for the whole year. Yeah, dude, I think the offense is gonna open up, and Christian Kirk's a young guy. I think he's gonna go off this year.
I was looking at some numbers, and Larry Fitz pretty much just he doesn't really line up on the outside anymore. It was like all of his snaps were from the slot. So if they do run a 2 wide receiver set, it's going to be D-Hop and Christian Kirk. And I was even looking at the snap percentages. I think after like the third week, it was Christian Kirk who was, playing the most snaps outside as receiver. So I mean, if there's going to be one of those guys I choose, Larry Fitz or Kirk, I'm probably going to take Kirk.
Yeah,
Larry Fitz might get that, still get drafted kind of higher because he has that name value. Someone might be like, oh, Larry Fitz is still on the board. Like, I'll take him, but, that just means a better player probably fell to you.
And Kirk's sneaky. He went from 68 targets to 107. So, I mean, he can be someone who takes those, the Larry Fitz, targets away. Because, I mean, he's still a young guy. He had 3 touchdowns, all came in one game. But, I mean, you could tell he's at least, he's supposed to be in the NFL. He can return kicks. He's athletic. Now, he's one of those. Is he a number 1? No, he's not a number 1. But he could be a good 2 or just someone, when the ones are getting covered, he can do the job.
How was his grades in college?
Dude, that fool's a fuckhead.
I just feel like you would know.
But he is a fuckhead. I can tell you a funny story
He's
about
actually
him.
a validated Victorian.
No, but he got in trouble for fucking throwing rocks into the street at Arizona, like being drunk. He was just like throwing rocks at cars, and he got in trouble for it.
That is some
He's
shit
kind
we
of
would
immature.
do
Yeah,
in
he
Arizona.
did do that when he was at Arizona. Teams are like, yeah, he's kind of immature. He's probably high. I know he smokes weed.
Why is everyone so fucking
My boy
stupid?
told me.
No, yeah, he does.
For
You
sure.
guys
All
got
right,
anything else in the Cardinals, or are we
Nah, with the tight ends
Mark
here,
McGuire.
I mean, no tight ends saw more than 25 targets. And when you have weapons like Fitz,
Jake
D-Hop,
Plummer.
Drake, and Christian Kirk, the tight end's really not anyone you're going to want to draft it on the Cardinals here. And then the defense, we just touched on, and like the defense isn't going to be very good. I don't even know if you could really stream this defense, to be honest. I know they go out and they draft Isaiah Simmons, who's going to be a savage, but I think this defense still has a lot of work to do before they're.
If you're looking for like
every defense has one game a year.
If you're looking for like a super duper deep dive, Dan Arnold is supposed to be their tight end. He played with him.
Arnold.
He played with them 3 games at the end of the season, weeks 15, 16, and 17, and he had 10 targets, 6 catches, 2 touchdowns. I mean, you got signed 3 games, 2 touchdowns. Who knows? But I'm just throwing it out there, so you can't say we didn't.
Yeah,
He could be.
out there.
He could be. I mean, he's supposed to be
there.
their starting tight end. He's like a flex. He's like a smaller bodied, but he's gonna probably be the guy if they decide to use one.
Dre out here spitting the facts there.
Yeah.
Dumb fire. And he played D3 fucking football too
Yeah,
at
just
Wisconsin
in case you didn't
Platteville.
know.
Holla at your boy.
Dumb.
Who do we got next?
Dumb fire.
All right, we can jump into the next team right here. We got the Los Angeles Rams. Going to be jumping into that new stadium with the Chargers. So I'm a little excited for this. So these 2 teams are going to be in the Hard Knocks as well, the Rams and the Chargers. So I think it'll be good to see because I feel like this is one of the teams that you kind of have some questions with. Are they changing the offense? What's the running back situation going to be like with Cam Akers, Malcolm Brown, and Darrell Henderson? So I think being able to like dive in on Hard Knocks, you'll really be able to see a sense of like what this offense wants to do and how the team is going to be going forward. But let's start off with Jared Goff here at quarterback. He finished as the QB 13.
Yeah, I'm good.
I think he's gonna make another step forward. I know PFF had him as like a top 5 offensive line.
And they had Jared Goff as an top 5 offensive line.
No,
Dude, he just
no,
does it all.
so he 2 years ago when their O-line was okay, he did really well, and then their O-line was bad last year, so they didn't do as good, as obviously you can tell. And a lot of people gave him shit for not taking an O-lineman until like the 7th round this year. But what a lot of people don't know is they took 2 O-linemen 2 years ago, and they just literally redshirted them. They basically said, look, get big, get ready for the NFL, and those 2 guys are going to start this year. So it's one of those, I wouldn't just assume they're going to be a shit O-line, even though they have been. They have 2 fresh bodies that are ready to play that literally didn't play last year. So they got 2 young guys ready. So, I mean, it's just one of those. I think Sean McVay's got something to prove. They're getting away from that offense that they ran last year. They got rid of Cooks. We've talked about the whole Higbee, Gerald Everett thing. So I think he's going to switch it up. He's a good offensive mind. I mean, he knows his shit. So I think he's going to maximize. Gurley's gone, so they don't have to, kind of solidify their investment that they made in him. So I think they're going to be able to spread the ball around more. I think they're going to go not as scoring 30 points a game, but I think they'll be more explosive, which is why I think this division is going to be fun to watch.
I was looking at the numbers. I was like, he kind of reminds me of like Matt Ryan number-wise.
Yeah.
And if you look at his finishes the last 3 years,
It's pretty up
13,
and down.
6, 13,
6.
6.
And then
Because Matt Ryan does that every year. He's
dog,
like, what is like QB3,
Bro.
QB17, QB4, QB15.
I've taken him twice, and he's been QB 17 and QB 20. So
Yeah. I kind of like Jared Goff this year, especially for the price tag you have to pay.
Yeah.
It's a lot lower than what you're going to get for him. I mean, a guy is thrown for 4,600 yards, back-to-back years. I actually think, like your point, I think they're more on the pass heavier side than run heavy than they have been in years past. Especially if the running backs, we have a rookie in Cam Akers, we don't know what we're getting out of it. Darrell Henderson was okay, and Malcolm Brown has been okay. If we have 3 okay running backs, this team might need to lean on Jared Goff potentially. And I mean, if he's going to throw the ball around 600 times, and he's going to he threw 32 touchdowns, 28, 22 last year. That's why he was bad last year and had the inconsistent games, was because of the touchdowns. If they go up to 27, he's going to be probably he's going to be a lot better than he was last year.
for sure.
I'm curious. I should look more into what the Rams' schedule looks like, because Jared Goff is classically known as the quarterback who cannot
Play
come
in
back.
the cold. He can't play in the cold
Yeah.
at all. He's a straight Cali boy.
Well, that too. But I was saying more is like when they're when they're down, when the Rams are down, Jared Goff can't clutch and win. If you pay attention, he doesn't really give you garbage time points. Yeah. It's like he plays better if they're ahead at the very beginning.
Yeah. And what I do like,
If they're playing a lot of teams that are good, then you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's it's more of a deep.
Yeah, I mean the floor to me is kind of very similar to last year with the floor, unless his team just shits the bed completely and falls apart, which I don't know. I think McVay's a good coach. I don't see that happening. So we could even say a step back from last year to force maybe top 15 finish, which is still usable week to week as a streamer, especially in the home games. Like he's a little bit better in home versus road. But I mean, he does have potential top, 7-6 upside in there.
For sure.
Especially if he throws for 30 touchdowns and 4,700 yards. That might be right around 5.
Yeah.
He
And
doesn't
we've
run the
seen
ball much, but he has the passing choppies.
and he's got the weapons.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
the
4,600 or more passing yards in back-to-back years. Threw the ball 626 times. I don't know if you touched on that or not. But that was tied for most in the NFL. Threw for the 10th most the previous year before that. So, like I said, they do like to air it out. I think last year, finishing as QB 13, I feel like that's almost his floor. I mean, you get Brandon Cooks, who's banged up. Gurley wasn't himself. Cooper Kupp kind of fell off towards the end of the year. Kind of like a little Super Bowl hangover for this offense in a sense. So, I mean, I think it can only be better than that. I mean, and if you listen to this podcast, you know my strategy. I like to sit back on quarterback, and I'll take 2, and I'll just play the matchups. So he's going to be one of those guys I'm definitely, gearing to grab as, be my 1-2 punch at quarterback. I mean, you got to think, and maybe it's just my own personal opinion, but, I mean, you're opening up a brand-new stadium. I mean, going from playing inside, I don't want to, what is it, the Coliseum they play in or whatever? In L.A.?
Yeah.
I don't want to dog
you
that,
not
but I mean,
entertained?
going from playing that stadium, I know Anthony, we've been to a game there. It's nothing special.
Yeah, especially when it's raining.
It's nothing
fucking cold
special.
as shit.
It's nothing special until we come back and win in the last minute of the game. But anyways, but you go from playing in that to playing in like the state of the art, brand new stadium. I mean, there's just got to be something that like boils in your blood that just gets you pumped. Like, hey, this is our house. Like, I'm gonna play better in this stadium. You just got to get more hyped up for it. I would feel like so. Yeah, I do like Goff. I think, like you said, for where you're getting him in the late rounds, I think he's going to be way perform out that ADP.
And I was surprised to see his age. He's only 25. He's going into his 5th year, or he's going into his 4th year. What I think is interesting, I mean, they were 4th in passing yards, 7th in offense still, and they were the 6th best red zone offense according to Sleeper. So I mean, with that but like Anthony was saying, they were 21st in passing touchdowns. So they're top 6, top 7 in everything but passing touchdowns, which explains why Gurley, they would they would hand it off to him, and he had a good amount of touchdowns. So if they can just, I mean, they move the ball, they just need to, I think McVay will find ways to get guys open, whether it's Everett, Higbee, and now obviously we'll touch into the receivers, whether it's Woods or Kupp, or even Reynolds, whatever,
or Kupp and Woods.
Sounds
like a law firm.
Yeah, right. Woods and Kupp and Woods.
Kupp and Woods.
So I think they got the weapons. It's just a matter of hopefully those 2 rookies they drafted 2 years ago can pan out. Because, I mean, if you remember, the Colts 3 years ago had the worst O-line in football, and then they get Quentin Nelson and another guy comes along, and now they have the best O-line in football. Literally overnight, they went from the worst to the best. So you never know. It can happen. You never know how, guys work together. And this is another thing to keep in mind when you're watching Hard Knocks. You know, they're going to be fun. They're going to be interesting to watch.
They're gonna knock so hard.
Yeah, they're gonna do it. So I mean, as far as receivers though, I mean, what do you think? I see Cooper Kupp to the right here.
All right, we going into Cooper Kupp first.
I mean, I just see receivers, and I looked over and it was highlighted.
Well,
So
I
I was
guess
like,
we are.
But I would touch on the running back right here. So
Who's the running back?
They trade Gurley away. Right? They trade Gurley. They cut him. Anyways, Gurley's no longer there. He's with Atlanta. So they go out in the second round. They draft Cam Akers out of Florida State. 210, 5'10", ran a 4.47. Dre, I know this is one of your favorite running backs coming in the draft. You actually took this guy in your dynasty draft, so I know you're definitely pretty hyped on him. So what do you think in his rookie year in this Sean McVay offense? Do you think he could be that Gurley-esque kind of player? Because I feel like he's not getting as much love as I think he should, because I feel like he's going in like the 5th round, give or take, when he could be a top 15 running back. And if he's a top 15 running back, the guy should be going to like the 3rd round at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect fit. He goes from a shitty O-line to what is presumably a shitty O-line, and he still was so coming out of high school, he was I want to say the number 2 recruit. It was him and J.K. Dobbins were like the 2 best running backs. So I went to look PFF, crazy interesting stat. Cam Akers forced a missed tackle. Granted, they were battle line, but he forced a missed tackle on 32% of his touches, which is fucking insane. And on those, he averaged 4 yards after contact per attempt. So not only was he breaking tackles, he was getting 4 yards after he broke the tackle, and he was on a terrible line. I mean, freakishly athletic, ran a 4.47. But he was by PFF, he was rated like the best running back. He's projected to have the most rushing yards this year out of rookie running backs. I mean, I don't know where they get those numbers from, but that's what PFF decided to give him.
They put it in a compooper.
Yeah, and his yards after carry are like top notch. It's just he came from a battle line, so I mean, I thought it was impressive. The 32% broke tackle percentage is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, his ceiling is kind of to like what Tyler said. If things go right, I don't think he'll get that full Gurley workhorse.
Yeah, not to start.
I think kind of not to start, and with training camps and all that. So, but he's for the price. They have him at RB28 in the consensus expert ranking. So for that price, he's one of the few running backs you can get that late that could have a top 15 finish, and maybe even specifically a top 15 finish over the 2/3 of the season. Yeah. Whether it's maybe they're like running some stuff in the offense, they're getting him accustomed to it. His floor is there's potential for a 2 to 3 way committee, which could be pretty ugly. And especially if he's not the red zone back, let's just say it's Malcolm Brown or it's maybe even Henderson or something like that, because we don't know who's officially the red zone back. That's where it can make his floor kind of more in an RB3. But I think that's a less likely scenario.
That's a tongue twister.
Less likely. I think it's a less likely scenario. I think he's probably more than likely a solid RB2 on a week-to-week basis. You're drafting him as an RB3, so I like that you're basically almost more than likely beating where you're drafting him at. And he does have top 15 potential in there too. So love the price for Cam Akers, one of the late running backs that you can get that could potentially be a lot better than that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm definitely going to be trying to target Cam Akers in every single one of my drafts. And I know we touched on it a couple times. If you see a guy, maybe he's going in the ADP, the 5th round, but if I like him, I don't want to miss out on him. So I might have to jump, into, the tail end of the 3rd round or maybe the 4th round and something like that to get him. But I mean, I'm on more of the side of like, if you're more comfortable with Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson, you don't go out and waste such a high draft price in the 2nd round and go get a guy like Cam Akers just to kind of have him sit on the sideline. I mean, one thing that will hurt him is, we've touched on it too, is, with no preseason games, no rookie mini camps and all that stuff like that. So it's going to be hard for a rookie to come in right off the jump, like you kind of said, maybe the second, 2/3 of the season. That's maybe when he really shines. So you might have to hold on to him a little bit and be patient. But, I mean, and I'm not saying he's Gurley by any means, but, the lead running back in Sean McVay's offense has had 250 or more touches in all 3 years. And what you'd like to see is the touchdown upside. So the last 3 years, 14, 21, and 19. Now, I'm not saying he's Gurley and he's going to get those numbers, but, I mean, even if he got me 12 touchdowns, even if he got me 10 touchdowns, I feel like that's just a lot. I feel like 10 touchdowns is a lot of touchdowns to get.
I kind of think Gurley is another level in the red zone than most running backs.
For sure, and I would agree with that as well. But for a guy like you said, where you're getting who's consensus 28, I think he's being ranked way too low. I mean, he's a guy I think you should be going out to grab. Especially if you're in dynasty leagues, I would think going forward, especially next year, hopefully this whole COVID coronavirus shit's out and gone out the window. You know, I think once he gets a full year of like training camps and all stuff like that, he will be the guy.
Yeah,
you know,
he'd
going
be like
forward.
a Miles Sanders. Give him a little bit of a few weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at so I don't know how many people know as far as like dynasty. I mean, fantasy is one thing, but knowing like football, the Rams run the zone, the outside zone, almost more than anybody. So I'm looking at Gurley, and I found the stat finally. Since 2017, no running back has run the zone-based run more than Gurley. He ran it 495 times since 2017. Cam Akers last year. Cam Akers,
dramatic pause. He's
right?
like, yeah.
Cam Akers ran the zone run last year 231 times. He was the fourth most that ran it in college football. He was 14th in broken tackles. I mean,
So he's familiar with the system.
that's why they got
Or
him.
zone run blocking
That's
run.
literally what they run. So 3 years. So he was there for 3 years. 2017, Florida State runs outside zone. In 2017, before their O-line depleted, he was number 1 in the country in rushing yards before contact per attempt. So he's getting 2 yards. Granted, I mean, 2 years ago, that's what running backs were out there, like Jacobs, Miles Sanders, shit like that. But he was number 1, and then he went to 6th in the country, and then he went to 26th, even with a shit O-line. They were like 100 and something in the country. So he goes to the perfect fit. I mean, they run the zone, he breaks the tackles. It should work out, but like you guys said, with this COVID thing going on, it's going to be patient with him though. Like, don't take him as your RB2 initially.
Yeah, be
He's
patient.
Take your time. Like, take him as like a RB3 or 4, and then wait it out. He's more talented than the other two guys. Obviously, that's why they got him. But you're gonna have to wait it out a little bit because I mean he's an explosive guy. He runs a 4.4 40. He can catch out of the backfield.
That was a nice stat, the outside zone one. That's
Yeah,
a good stat.
Yeah,
Right?
he that's why they run it. So I mean,
I like it.
it's interesting to see. I want to see how it looks on Hard Knocks because they're gonna how they do player profiles. They're gonna like hype up a bunch of players. So his stock will probably go up after Hard Knocks, just like a lot of players do.
For sure.
All right, who we got next?
We'll jump into Cooper Kupp right here, the wide receiver. So he finished as wide receiver
boy.
4 PPR, wide receiver 4, half-point PPR. Entering a contract year, so like I said, I'm kind of on the side of like some of these players, put up or shut up if you want to get that contract. When we first did this podcast, we kind of joked around saying Cooper Kupp was Jared Goff's boy. That was like actually the first video we ever did,
like hang
little
out
player
together.
segment we ever did and shit. But that surprisingly that year before Cooper Kupp tore his ACL, he was balling. He was just going out of control. And and I still think even though with the Robert Woods I think is super talented, I still think Cooper Kupp is the guy. 70% completion percentage when Goff targets Cooper Kupp. That was 4th best amongst wide receivers. I mean, I know, Anthony, you kind of struggle sometimes with the man coverage, or you say he struggles with the man coverage, but, I mean, he still saw 134 targets. I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where he doesn't see 120 targets. I mean, do you see that scenario?
Where he doesn't see it,
Where he doesn't see, like, 120-plus targets.
barring injury. Other than that,
No, I mean, like I said, I think I was a lot lower on him for a minute, but I kind of readjusted because I do think Jared Goff has somewhat of a bounce back a little bit, and
I mean, if you're pegging Goff,
dude, I'll peg
I'll
Goff
peg
right
the
now.
shit
for
out of Goff.
4,600 yards and let's just say 27 touchdowns, like you said, I mean, you got to think Kupp is going to get a decent amount, a chunk of that, right?
Yeah, and that's why I adjusted like my expectations of him. Like I said, I think it's somewhere in the middle. He's not good against man. It's just straight up hands down.
Yeah,
like it's
Man's
been
down. Hand down, man down.
hand down. It's been a long track record of him struggling against man.
For sure.
I just think McVay's a good enough coach. I think that's. I mean, when we get into tight end too, I'm putting it on the coach. I think he's still going to find ways to get Cooper Kupp involved. I don't think he will be the most targeted receiver. In my eyes, it'll 100% be Robert Woods, but he has more of a touchdown upside than Robert Woods does. But I think Robert Woods actually. We can get it. I'll keep it to Cooper Kupp. I think his floor is still relatively safe because, like you said, he's not. Was there a tight end? Higbee's not going to go out there and get 140 targets, and Cooper Kupp's going to see 70. That's not going to happen. So I do think his floor is still 120, 15. That's like the floor. Realistically, I think he's more 130, 140 target guy. Which when you're getting him at like where he's going now at like wide receiver 15, 16, I like that. When he was being rated up in like the top 6 or 7, it was almost like he needed to be super. It was just too high for me there. Right now, I like it where he's going now. Now I'm like okay with where he's going. In the beginning, when we were bringing him up, it was almost he was too high for me. Now it's like he's fallen to a point of where I'm like okay, I like that draft price. And the ceiling, if he does everything break right, is actually probably like top 6. If he gets like 12 touchdowns, because he can do that.
Can I just say this? So, like, I know the man coverage thing. I haven't really read too much of the whole man coverage thing, but I do know one thing is that he does line up predominantly in the slot. You know, that's where his, most of his routes and most of his catches came from. I think he was like top 3 in terms of like routes, run, targets, and catches out of the slot. Do you think like when Cooks went down, do you think they moved him outside potentially, and that's kind of what it was? Like he wasn't as good on the outside.
He actually did worse when Cooks was down.
Or did
that's
what I'm saying. Like, do you think? Yeah, do you think that with no Cooks, so they moved him from the slot kind of outside to be like, hey, now we have to have you and Woods on the outside. You're not in the slot anymore. I don't know if this is how it went down or not. But I'm just saying, do you think that could have been the scenario, or have you looked into it to see if that was what it was?
I mean,
I don't think. No, well, they didn't move him
they
because they had
just
Josh
straight up
Reynolds.
took him off the field.
Yeah, they had Josh Reynolds come in. Yeah, exactly. Because he couldn't beat it. So I think teams were focusing more on him, which is why he wasn't doing good. Because for that reason, like he just can't. I don't know, whatever it is, he just can't beat man, whether it's like the press or maybe.
Because he's a slot guy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
He finds the soft spots in zones, and he can run. His certain routes he does well, but yeah, he you can look like his
Actually, I'm gonna lower his ceiling.
His snap percentage was going down little by little, as opposed to like the beginning of the year. So he's going to have to get over it eventually, or, it's going to be – they got Van Jefferson, who I'm not a big fan of, but they got receivers there.
And
they don't have to they don't. Josh Reynolds is actually, if you –
he's done decent when he's been called upon.
Yeah, last year
You
not
have
as
been
much.
summoned.
Yeah, my dude, 2 years ago he did really well when he got hurt. He had like 4 or 5 touchdowns for him, but he's just a bigger body too. So, this is – it's going to be make or break. If the Rams don't like what they see, they're definitely not going to re-sign him. They have – especially because they have so much money tied up and other shit. They got Donald and other guys they want to sign.
Jalen Ramsey.
You got Jalen. Yeah, it's just you got. Goff,
I think
Ramsey.
they sign him because I think that's Goff's boy. You want to make your quarterback. You want to make your $100 million quarterback happy. You don't just ship off his best friend. Yeah. You want to keep that combination. Like I said, the 70% completion percentage between the two, that's 4th best. So
for sure.
When he's getting targeted, it's a high percentage of the targets are getting completed.
I do think there's potential for some inconsistency with him. Like I said, I think Sean McVay is a very smart coach. I think he uses his players to the best of their ability. I'm not saying Tyler Higbee is going to be but I think there's going to be a lot more 12 personnel than we've seen in the past. And like I said, I think it's going to be a balance. And if there is games where they're running more 12 personnel and it's more Robert Woods, and we have a game where Higbee is really involved, you might have more bust games than you've had over Cooper Kupp. When you get to that second half, you saw games of 4 targets, 3 targets, 6. That could happen this year more than it's happened in the past. So I think there's potential for some inconsistency with Cooper Kupp. That's why I said when he was the top 10, I was hands off.
Yeah.
Now 15, 16, I'm okay with that price. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, there's going to be potentially some inconsistent games. I'm repeating myself, so
I think we're pretty much both locked in. I think that both these guys, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, probably both top 20 guys. So like a 1A, 1B. So with that, we could jump into Robert Woods. Finished as wide receiver 14 in PPR, wide receiver 17 in half-point PPR. Actually led the Rams in targets with 139. Kupp had 134. So like I say, 1A, 1B. The numbers are pretty similar across the board. 94 receptions for Cooper Kupp, 90 for Woods, 1160 yards for Cooper Kupp, 1130 for Robert Woods. The only difference is the touchdowns. You got 10 for Cooper Kupp, only 2 for Robert Woods. So that's just a little, things happen, things happen. It's just sometimes the luck of the draw in a sense. But I do think both these guys are dialed in to be top 20 wide receivers. Where do they finish? Who finishes higher? I don't know. It's like I said, to me, it's like a 1A, 1B scenario here. But what is it about Robert Woods that you like?
What I like is this stat line right here: 36 carries, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what he's gotten the last 2 years on end arounds, just end arounds alone. So he's averaged 8.26 yards per carry and 6.76 yards per carry. Granted, I know that's not a lot, but that's 1 extra touch a game, and he's got 2 touchdowns running the ball. So it's just they're finding ways to get him open. And I had read an article 2 years ago. He was a number 1 rated fantasy player in all of fantasy football 2 years ago. He was like ADP, like 9th round, and he finished 11 PPR. He's like just sneaky good. He has back-to-back seasons with 130 targets, back-to-back seasons with at least 85 catches and at least 1,100 yards. He's and his ADP is always overlooked. He's always slept on. He can literally win you a league through and through. He balls, and no one ever talks about him. So
It's like Mike said. He's kind of like that Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, him. Yeah, he just slept on. He reminds me of like a Tyler Boyd or like a Jarvis Landry. Like he's just always there, and you're like, I won't get him, and then he balls, and you're like, God damn it, I wish I would have grabbed him. But I mean, he's been in the league for a while now. I mean, 7 years in it, and the Rams love him.
He's got a super safe floor, in my opinion.
For sure.
When you're drafting him, it's like he's one of those guys you set it and forget it every single week. You know, he's dialed in as probably your wide receiver too. You know, maybe he's your third wide receiver.
Yeah, there you go. There it is. But he averages a carry a game.
But that's what I'm saying. But he's a set it and forget it guy who's got wide receiver one upside any given week. You know, because we've seen these crazy games where he gets 14 targets. You know, and puts up, he gets you 10 catches for 100 and something yards.
And like you said, 2 touchdowns
or 11. He's in my top 12.
Yeah, he's slept on, man. I mean, like we said, if we would have had 5 touchdowns as opposed to 2, he'd be probably top 10.
Yeah,
you know, for a 1A 1B receiver that got drafted in the 7th or 8th round, that's stupid.
Yeah,
as long as he stays healthy, he'll get you 120 targets at least.
Oh, way more than
20. No, I'm saying at least. Like he'll get you 120 at least, barring injury. You know,
here's what it like,
because the tight ends will emerge and shit like that. But he's got a safe floor.
Yeah, he has 2. Essentially, we saw 2 offenses out of the Rams. He could succeeded in both of them.
Yeah,
like I said, when I did the target distribution, I actually saw floor lower with Kupp of like 110 potentially if the running backs and tight end, if 2 tight ends are involved. Robert Woods was. Whether they run 11, 12 personnel, he's going to be out there getting his targets, getting his target share. The 2 touchdowns is an anomaly. That's not going to happen. No. He's going to be more 6, 7. You know, if he gets 8 touchdowns and he sees 150 targets, he's finishing top 12 because he's probably going to have over 100 catches as well on top of that too.
Oh, for sure.
So I actually have him pegged for right around 100 catches.
Don't fucking peg him, dude. Dude, stop pegging him.
He's one of those middle round guys where, like, you know, you've kind of heard me say it a couple times in the drafts, the mock drafts we do, like, you know, I think you should really, for my strategy at least, you know, I really want to stack up on some running backs because I feel like when you get to the middle rounds, like the running backs are just the gross, as Estancia would say. But you can get guys like Robert Woods, you can get a guy like Tyler Lockett, you know, and if let's say you get a guy like, I don't know, you get like a Josh Jacobs, then you pair him with a Kenyan Drake, and then, you know, maybe you get a Kittle in the 3rd round, and then now you get a Tyler Lockett and, you know, and a Robert Woods in the 4th and 5th round. I mean, I don't think that's a bad strategy at all right there.
Yeah, no. His floor is probably exactly what he finished last year. His ceiling's in the top 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I thought was interesting was he had 139 targets, 90 catches with a bad O-line. I mean, they've shown Goff. I mean, any quarterback's better when they're not under pressure. So if their O-line gets better, I mean, 49 incompletions is pretty high on 139 targets. So even if their O-line gets better, those 139 targets could translate into, you know, 100 catches, maybe 105 catches. If you just give him time, he's going to be more accurate, understandably so. So, you know, the O-line will fix a lot of problems for him too. So
for sure. All right, we can jump into the tight end right here. You got Tyler Higbee. I'm not a big on Tyler Higbee.
Come on, T. It's your boy T.
He's one of my biggest bust alerts.
So you just explain his floor and we won't say anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me personally, it's just, you know, 63 career games. Only 7 times has he gone over 60 yards. 5 of those 7s happened.
5 games in a row.
Yeah, 5 games in a row towards the end of last year. 56 times he has not had 60 or more receiving yards. I just don't. It's just too small of a sample size. I just can't imagine a scenario where after, I don't even know how many years that is, 5 years in the league, now he's just good all of a sudden.
Oh, he's a grower, not a shower.
I mean, you know, I bring it up every time you talk about Higbee. I always talk about the tight end to running back targets that you've actually, you know, taught me, Anthony. You know, and it's like those, you know, 2017, 2018, you know, the running backs were getting pretty heavily targeted. 157 targets last year for the tight ends. That doubled what it was last year. I can't imagine a scenario, and only 62 for the running backs. So I can't imagine a scenario where the tight ends are seeing 157 targets. Even if you split them evenly and you give them like 100 each, which is more realistic, you know, give or take. I just think that he's a guy where you're going off what he did last year in a small sample size. You know, when Cooper Kupp wasn't being Cooper Kupp, I mean, 56 receptions for Higbee during that span, only 30 for Cooper Kupp. But even though Cooper Kupp only got 30 receptions, he still had 5 touchdowns where Higbee only had 2. So he's just one of my biggest bust guys. I'm just going to be avoiding him. Could I be wrong? He's one of those guys where I'd rather just not have him and be wrong, like you say, or whatever, instead of having him and be right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I pulled out a whole, cut up a whole clip of Tyler Higbee and how we feel about him. So
did you? Let me see.
Well, it's on YouTube.
Oh, damn it. I thought you were about to drop some heat.
No.
But I know you guys were a little bit higher on him. There's obviously anything can happen in fantasy football, but you guys both had him in your top 12, early top 12 rankings, I think.
I forgot. I think I had him up there. I forgot
yeah, I
where.
had him-
but
I-
What
had
is
him
it?
top 10.
What is the upside? You guys like the upside or?
Floor and ceiling. His ceiling is 100 targets.
I just
It's in the range of possibility. He's one of the few tight ends who showed dominance. It wasn't even like he showed like, some of these other tight end flashes. Like he straight up showed like fucking dominance. And I think Sean McVay is a good coach. I think he's going to use him. Do I think he's going to be like a 100-yard tight end every game? No, not at all. But is he going to be used in this offense? He found a weapon, and I think he's going to use him. And now, I see him more as like a 70, 80 reception tight end. That's going to be in the range of all those other guys that are right there. If he catches 2 touchdowns, he's going to finish outside there. If he catches 6 or 7, he's going to finish in the top 8. But he also does have, if that wasn't just a flash, and that is like legit, and he ends up being a 100-target guy, where you're getting him is it's not top 8 rounds. You're getting him in the 10th, 11th round. And every mock draft,
he's going a little bit higher. He's going
every
in the
mock
top
draft
10
we've
rounds.
actually done though. He's going like look at the ones we've done, not like these little consensus ones too, where it's just pick off the computer. He's gone late. I've been paying attention. 10th, 11th.
Yeah,
I will gladly take a chance in the 10th, 11th round. A guy, someone who can get me 100 targets. That's flash takeover ability.
I don't know if dominance is the right word. To me,
A tight end that gets what
I
that
would
many
see
100-yard
is-
games? How is that not dominance?
Well, when you're like stretching the field and you dump a 5-yard pass to the tight end and he runs for another 5 yards, and then you do that 10 times, it's easy to get 10 catches at 10 yards of reception. When you're stretching the field and you're just dumping the ball off, that's not really dominance. I mean, dominance would be a guy like Kittle who's catching the ball and just body slamming people around.
Well, okay, maybe not.
Even
Kittle
raw,
dominance.
but you know what I'm saying? I just think
it's
it was
not
more
Kittle,
of the offense was in disarray last year, and they're just kind of finding. And Sean McVay is a smart coach. Coach.
Oh, hey, coach.
Sean McVay is a smart coach.
You got the
No,
Kennedy.
I think
So I think he was just finding ways to move the ball, and like maybe if Kupp obviously was struggling with man coverage, he was thinking, like, okay, like we can do this, but then Higbee will be open in the flats, or Higbee will be open on a quick slant type. So something quick and short for Goff to get the ball out, especially like you're saying the offensive line wasn't very good either. So I think he was more a product of dink and dunk, and the offense.
I don't know about
not
dink or
running.
dunk. Long of 22, long of 20, long of 26, long of 33, long of 26. Average points, receptions, 15.3, 16.6. That's not dink and dunk.
I was just
A
going to
couple
say.
of those games, I mean,
What I think
9.3,
you were-
11.6, but
What I think you're trying to say is I think he's, out of all these tight ends that are going top 10, 12, he's the most likely to outplay his ADP tenfold just because of where he's going. Like the top 8 guys are going to be going top 8, status, like higher rounds where Higbee can finish top 10 and you can get him in the 10th round.
Yeah,
as opposed to like a higher end, like a Evan Ingram who can finish 7 or 8, but he's going to be going, higher rounds as opposed to someone like Higbee who can finish right around Ingram, but he's going to be 5 or 6 rounds, lower.
yeah, I won't be looking at him in the top 8 rounds. So
Yeah,
if he
no.
goes there,
He's just someone who
I'm
can
out.
outplay his ADP just because of where he's going. Is what I mean. That's what I would say. I mean, I'm a big Gerald Everett fan too. Still, I like him because he showed flashes last year too, and he's
That's
just
the
as
other thing.
athletic.
I don't think Gerald Everett's
So-
just going to disappear. So I just don't
I'm just
understand
interested to see what they're going to
a
do.
guy who didn't do it his whole career just magically jumped onto the scene, and now he's just going to be good from here on out. Like, why wasn't he good from the jump? Why wasn't he good the year before that? Why wasn't he good the year before that? That's just my
opportunity. So
that's just
what about
my-
Raheem Mostert? He was terrible
Dog.
forever. So
Hey,
I think it's
Darren-
more.
Darren Waller.
I kind of contradict myself. I was
Darren
gonna say
Waller.
it was more like the system. But,
Yeah, I mean,
the system is the Sean McVay system. Then, so
Yeah.
if that's the case, then yeah, it could be it.
Yeah, they're both talented though. Like it usually takes tight ends a while anyway. Everyone knows first year tight ends. It's very hard for it to translate regardless. I mean, you do have your flashes that are, your guys that are, exception. But for the most part, it takes guys, even Kittle.
Yeah.
Kelsey came in and balled, but very few guys do it.
I just take tight ends time to.
It
to
does.
come
I mean,
in
you got to
and
acclimate. I mean, you got to get the size. You're trying to be an inline blocker. I mean, it very rarely do guys pop first year. Like Gronk was like one of the few,
he
So,
bonked.
Yeah,
And
he was out there.
grabbing titties.
Yeah, he was out there doing his thing. So it will be interesting. That's why I am going to be watching this Hard Knocks just to see what the fuck McVay's going to be, going to be doing.
What's going
'Cause-
down a little
yeah,
bit. Yeah,
yeah,
that'll give us a lot
I think
better
he's got some
insight.
shit up
For
his
sure,
sleeve.
yeah, understand.
Some shit up his sleeve. Like, yo, look.
Thank God they're on Hard Knocks.
Yeah,
Because they are one of the hardest teams. Like,
Yeah, it's
there's a
like-
lot of questions with receiver and
like,
I mean, like all these
you went
things.
from the Super Bowl scoring 30 points a game to 8-8 scoring like
I feel
20
like we
points
should
a
never
game.
talk about Tyler Higbee again until season starts. We've talked about him enough. Legitimately. Like,
All
I'm
right,
trying to see
let's get
Tyler
it.
Higbee. Watch all the other episodes.
You know who's first cousins with Tyler Higbee? someone on the 49ers. So let's get to that.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. That's
But
not
what about
true.
the defense here on the Rams defense? Are you?
Aaron Donald.
I feel like they're one of those defenses that they're overly hyped. Like someone might go out and draft the Niners defense, and then they could be like the second or third defense off the board. I mean, are you?
I
think we're all pretty set on like weight on a defense, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we're
know?
pretty set on. I fucking hate leagues with defenses.
You just gotta wait for the what did we call it last year with my defense picks?
Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, Mr. Miyagi's defensive pick of the week. Yeah. I got you.
I think this will be one of the better defenses that you can stream, especially like I said, in the new stadium. You get some of these bad teams traveling from East Coast to West Coast.
Yeah, check out their schedule for sure. I mean,
I think definitely streamable stuff like that. But yeah, we could jump into the Niners right here.
what?
Let's talk about
my guys?
sex, baby.
So
God.
we go from
Jimmy
one
G.
NFC West team on a Super Bowl hangover to another
bro.
NFC West team.
Bro, they're
that's
not
gonna
on a
be
Super Bowl hangover because in order to be on a hangover, you have to go out and drink, and everything's closed, baby. You can't go nowhere. Ain't no such thing as a Super Bowl hangover when you can't hit the club. Motherfuckers. Although PD just told me last week he took care of like Richard Sherman, like last week.
Yeah, he was here. He was here this last weekend in
shout out
Vegas.
Sherm.
Yeah, big Sherm. But yeah, I started out with Jimmy G, QB 14, so one spot behind Jared Goff. I mean, what do you guys, Jimmy G?
I'm good.
I'd rather take Jared Goff.
I mean, I'm
I'm
just gonna
good.
tell you that
I'd rather get coronavirus.
we were up 10. All I'm gonna say is that we were up 10 in the Super
just
Bowl. And
kidding.
lost
Maybe
by
you've
10.
had it. You're just
I'm just kidding.
asymptomatic.
He is as a Niner fan, he is a spot starter. You don't draft him as a start. You draft him at he could be like your bye week replacement quarterback until proven otherwise.
I don't even think you draft Jimmy G.
No, yeah, no,
he's
no,
one of those
no.
guys
He's
like
a waiver wire.
wire or
Yeah.
if someone gets hurt or something, then you pick him up. But that's just
I think we can move on.
Yeah, they
that's why the quickest player.
yeah, they run the ball.
Hey, we're getting good at this.
Just don't look. You don't need to draft Jimmy G when it comes down to it. You're not gonna put him. It's just.
I mean, his
Are you
QB
gonna
rating.
draft
The quarterback is so deep. There's so many positions.
Yeah.
It's not that he's bad. It's just
that he
guys
can
that are
finish
that are
outside of
better.
the top 20.
Yeah, listen to us on the weekly episodes when we say stream him, and then that's when he plays.
Yeah, and I'm a Niner fan, but there's not much to talk about.
If he goes back to the Patriots, I'll put him on my team.
I mean, 69% completion percentage, whatever, 27 touchdowns, whatever. He's not going to win you a week, but he's not going to lose you a week, but he's not going to win you one.
he's
so
a
I don't want him.
streaming waiver wire matchup quarterback to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the real news here. So you got Raheem Mostert. He wants to be traded. We talked about it on the last episode. He finished as RB 26 in PPR, RB 24 in half point PPR. In weeks 12 through 17, he kind of really burst out into the scene. He was RB 8 PPR, RB 7 in half point PPR. I mean, it's like crazy. I was kind of like, I was saying when we talked about Mostert on this last one, I would rather take Tevin Coleman a couple rounds later instead of Mostert. But then just looking at the numbers, it's kind of crazy. I mean, they both had 137 carries. Mostert 772 yards. Tevin Coleman only 544 yards. So obviously Mostert making more of his opportunity, 5.6 yards per carry compared to Tevin Coleman's 4 yards per carry. Do you think he takes over as the main guy, or do you think there's still a running back by committee here, or like a hot hand approach week to week?
Both. There's definitely going to be a committee, and there's going to be somewhat of a hot hand approach. I think Mostert's going to be the hotter hand most of the time, though.
I think they're going to end up trading him.
You think
And
so?
I hope they do. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have leverage at all. Like, the Niners can literally just be like, fuck off, I'll see you week one, if they really wanted to. He just got paid $12 million before last season, and then he balled, and now his agent's in his ear, like, get another contract. I mean, you had Raheem Mostert, Matt Breida, and Tevin Coleman all had over 123 carries. They had 3 running backs over 123 carries. Mostert had 8.6 carries a game. Breida had 9.5, and Tevin Coleman had 9.8. So none of them got the fucking ball more than 10 times a game. Shanahan is more, game script dependent. If someone's balling, I mean, that's like the first run of the game. My guy Breida, but it's
my guy Breida.
Yeah, you're right.
Anthony's
Breida
guy
the
Breida.
cheetah,
Yeah,
cheetah the
bro.
breed. Yeah, for sure.
It's our guy Breida.
Man, he's a beast. And perfect example. He's good at finding these undrafted free agents. Fire up Savon Ahmed, who I think he's a rookie from Washington, but I think he's actually going to get some touches. Here's another interesting thing I found. Jeff Wilson Jr., 27 carries, 4 touchdowns. I mean,
It's the system for me on this
Yeah,
one. It's,
100%.
You could throw anyone back there.
Matt Breida
and I
had
think
1
they're gonna be
touchdown all year,
successful.
and it was that touchdown against the Browns. It was an 83-yard touchdown run. That's all he had. They had 4 other running backs with at least 3 touchdowns. One of them was Deebo Samuel. He had 3 rushing touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
And now you're bringing in Jerick McKinnon. Granted, you get rid of Breida. I think it's going to – and if they – I think they're going to get rid of Mostert. I don't know where, but I think they're going to find somewhere. That's just obviously an opinion. If they don't – oh, man, I like you said, I think it's still a committee. I think it's still going to be Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert and, McKinnon. I mean, one of them, it's just they're going to eat into each other's workload is what I would say,
Yeah.
So it's just – and they do like to run the ball, but, I mean, 3 guys, 120 carries, it's just tough. He doesn't like, and I thought they were going to bring in Devontae Freeman. That's what I thought. I thought they were going to trade Mostert and have Shanahan call Freeman and be like, hey, you and Tevin Coleman, like, what's good?
It's just crazy because obviously whoever's behind there in this offense running the ball is going to have some fantasy value. I think it's just you just don't know any given week. It could be Mostert. It could be Tevin Coleman. I mean, who knows if McKinnon comes in out of nowhere and, gets shot out of a bottle like Breida did right there on that 80-yard run that we just saw a second ago.
Probably
I mean, I just don't know. So I'm personally just a little nervous to draft any of these guys. I mean, if they ship off Mostert, I think it'll be a little more comfortable because maybe you're thinking like, okay, Tevin Coleman's probably the guy, and then maybe you take a flyer on a guy like McKinnon. But I don't know, man. It's for me personally, I'd rather just not have to deal with that.
For sure. There's just other
The
other
Shanahanigans is what they used to call it when his dad was the coach.
Shanahanigans.
Shanahanigans. But I would just personally not want to have to deal with any of this because I just don't know. I'm not gonna act like here. It's like I know. Oh yeah, Mostert. Oh yeah, Coleman. I just don't know, and I just want to play that Russian roulette every single week.
I'll tell you what I know, so I'm not gonna draft him.
Yeah, and remember, Tevin Coleman came out of nowhere and had that 100-yard, 4-touchdown game, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, he's the man." And then
it's like,
and then nothing.
It's like last year. I think your brother Anthony, who drafted every Patriots running back. Because he just was like, one of them's gonna be it. It's like unless you're doing that, then don't.
I mean, that's your strategy.
I mean, and I say this all the time, whether it's fucking quarterbacks or anything. When you have 2 or 3, you don't have one. If you have 2, you don't have one, and the Niners have 3. So if you got 3, you sure as fuck don't have one.
Hey, dude, that's just simple math.
Unless you got all 3. And you know what? I wouldn't even want that problem. I wouldn't want to have all 3 of those bastards and have to decide who to play.
Well, but that's the thing is that why we spend draft capital on a running back when possibly the one that is going to be used could end up being on the waiver wire at one point. Week 1, they're not using, all of a sudden, and they ball out of control in week 2, and then you get them off the waiver wire.
Dude, and they could have 4.
Because you listen to the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast and you listen to the waiver wire episode after week 1 and you're like, oh my God.
But
I found out that this guy's available.
You're like, damn, that's not one.
But for Dynasty, go pick up Savon Ahmed. I'm telling you, I clicked on his name and they gave him an NFL comparison and they're like, he's Raheem Mostert. And it literally says, if he goes to the 49ers, snag him up. I swear to God.
He is Raheem Mostert.
He is Raheem Mostert. That's what they said, man. It says right here, it says, look, Ahmed, Raheem Mostert, it says, in Dynasty, if he goes to the 49ers, it is an absolute dream scenario for his potential fantasy outlook. I mean, he's built the exact same height, weight.
You heard it here first.
I'm telling you, check him out.
Yeah, check him.
I mean, he could be the next Matt Breida. We know how him or Jermichael Hasty, they don't spend money on running backs.
No.
Yeah.
Shanahan ain't tripping. Hey, Mac, you should try out. How's those knees?
I'm about to, bro, because you got a 3-week IR if you get COVID.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing. A 3-week IR, that's when you want to pick up these rookies and, like, check the depth charts before you draft, talk to your commissioners about IR
doing a scenario
spots.
where, like you said, you're drafting. If you're drafting Mostert, you're drafting Coleman a couple rounds later, just to like really lock up that Niner backfield. Then,
I hate doing that.
Or you just want to stay away from it.
Well, if Mostert gets traded, I don't mind getting 2. Like I don't mind getting like a Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins. I don't mind getting 2, but 3 is just too much.
Yeah, but wait, 2 isn't 1.
2 isn't 1. 2 is not
So
1.
you
But,
sure?
but I don't mind having 2. I don't mind having 2. Doesn't mean I'll play them, but I don't mind having 2 of those guys.
I'm probably personally just going to stay away from
But
it.
I won't,
I'd
though.
rather someone else can take him. If he does good for him. I just don't have to deal with that headache. I mean,
No, that's true.
And what if it's a scenario we talk about it's ugly both weeks with both players? It's like
Yeah.
now you have 2 roster spots where you're just wasting.
Then you-
Because then you got to try and
drop
trade
'em
them.
both.
You're not going to drop them.
Trade them.
You got to try and trade them both. So it's
Package them in a deal.
Listen,
Yeah,
not
you trade
all of us
those 2
have
for 1.
dillweeds in their fucking fantasy league.
There you
Dude.
go.
They won't take them.
Trade them for Kendrick Bourne. Fuck it.
all right, we'll jump into the receiver position here. You got Deebo Samuel finishes wide receiver 31 PPR, wide receiver 29.5 point PPR. I think collectively we all love Deebo Samuel entering the second year. Unfortunately, he broke his foot. We had Dr. Cucci come on, a.k.a. the medicine man. He kind of broke that down for us. But it was sounding like, he was going to be ready for the start of week 1.
I remember what he said. He said if he doesn't end up having to have surgery, he should be ready week 1, but you pay attention whether or not he's going to have surgery.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
He'll be one of those guys. I mean, 81 targets, 57 receptions, 800 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns through the air, but like Dre touched on, 3 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, 14 carries was the 4th most amongst wide receivers. So just some extra yardage and extra touchdowns. I mean, half of his touchdowns came from, those end arounds, so he's heavily utilized in this offense. He's a guy where I think, maybe his foot does kind of, his ADP slides a little bit. I'll gladly draft Deebo Samuel and I'll sit on him and I'll wait 3-4 weeks until he can come back, because I know, for that playoff stretch down that, second half of the year, like he's going to be my guy who could be a solid wide receiver too, probably, or at least a good flex guy. And by then you probably have, a pretty decent roster, But yeah, so I'll do like me some Deebo Samuel. Even with a broken foot, I'll still be targeting him in a lot of my drafts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a broken foot. It's not like he has gout.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, you like Deebo. I would just talk about it off air. I'm all about my guy Trent Taylor, slot receiver, Louisiana Tech. I think he got drafted 3 years ago. So he's like best friends. I'm obviously looking on my phone right now, but he's best friends with George Kittle. They've been working out, all offseason from what I'm looking at. But just to keep in mind, Deebo Samuel might not be ready for the offseason or for the season to start. Their number 2 is a rookie. And if you go back and look, we're not going to post it, but just type in Trent Taylor even last year. If you go look at him during training camp, he was absolutely balling. And Jimmy G loved him. And another thing that I think is very intriguing is Wes Welker's a wide receivers coach, and he's been working extra with Trent Taylor out of the slot, because if you look at them, they're built very similar. They play a very similar game. And what I've been reading is that he's putting in extra work with Wes Welker to just be strictly a slot guy. And I think with Richie James being hurt, and Deebo Samuel, there's a lot of opportunity for playing time. And it's not he's a rookie. He's been in the league. He just had a few injury problems. But he's a stud. He's just like a little white slot receiver, but just don't be surprised. That's what I'm telling you. Trent Taylor.
Was he on the Redskins?
No, we've had him since
So would you prefer a guy like Trent Taylor over Brandon Ayuk?
Yes. I would take, especially, I don't know if another thing, they say in the NFL to get acclimated, the 2 hardest positions are center and wide receiver, just because you have to learn, there's so many nuances to the game that you have to learn. That's why I think those 2 positions are going to be a detriment to players like rookie guys, other than like your CD Lambs or Jerry Jeudy's or Jefferson, stuff like that. Every other guy, because those guys their talent will supersede eventually. It'll supersede, compared to like 5th round guys.
Yeah, the CDs and the Judys.
CDs and Judys and babies. But I just think, I think Trent, and he knows the offense. He's fully, entrenched in it. He knows everything.
He's entrenched.
And Brandon Ayuk is still learning, so I think if he stays healthy, I think Trent Taylor will be a sneaky pick for somebody. So just keep an eye out for him.
Dude, he'd be like a full Sonic Boom.
Yeah, I'm all in on Trent Taylor for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, like you said, for these rookies. No preseason, no rookie. You hear me say it. So it's going to be hard for them to really get out there. They might want to have some guys who are veterans who already know the playbook and stuff like that to really go out there. So it could take a couple of weeks for some of these rookie wide receivers.
And they traded Marquise Goodwin, so they really don't have. They don't have much. Yeah. So
to me, my guy. I'll just make it simple. This is like the lowest volume passing team in the league outside of maybe. No, they're probably the lowest volume passing team.
They are.
So it's like I'm only taking probably one receiver, and that number 1 receiver is Kittle. So if I'm going to take a 2 option, it's going to actually only be 1 receiver, and it would be Deebo Samuel. Yeah. I'm pretty much hands off on any other receiver. Yeah. Because how much consistency am I going to get?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So to me, it's simple. I'm taking Kittle, 100%. And then the only receiver I would touch is Deebo Samuel. Outside of that, I'm not fucking with you, because I ain't trying to get 3 targets on a given week when they run the ball 35 times and be like, son of a bitch.
Dude, I've sat here for a good second, trying to think of a team that throws the ball less, and I think you're right.
That's why I paused.
Yeah, they're very much so running the ball control defense, except for when it comes to the fucking Super Bowl and they pass all the time. But anyway, that's a different story. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. If you didn't know, Andre's a Niners fan.
Yeah, we can touch on George Kittle right here, the tight end position. Finished tight end 2 in both half point and full point PPR.
I think
What?
Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted to touch on Brandon.
Nah.
We kind of did.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
he's
Okay.
yeah, he's a rookie.
Okay.
Bless you.
We good. Hey, Brandon Ayuk, ready? Brandon Ayuk. All right. Go
Ready? Are you
ahead.
looking?
Ayuk and
He's more of a
Kittle.
dynasty play, I think.
I don't know.
going
He
forward.
It just with
Like
this,
Anthony said, on a
this
team that doesn't
offseason-
throw the ball that much, he's the third option at best in my eyes.
Well, I don't know. Dre was talking about a guy named Trent Taylor for a minute. So
He's not a guy named Trent Taylor. He's a fucking man, and his name is Trent Taylor. Okay.
Did go back
Go
and
back.
pull up his highlights from training camp, dude? You just see
He's
him
a beast. He fucking.
you should have seen it. He made the
literally-
Gatorade so good.
No, he literally mosses some dude, and then John Lynch is right there, and he throws John Lynch the ball, and he walks away, and John Lynch is like, "That's my white dude."
All right, we'll
That
talk
really did
about
happen.
George Kittle real quick. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah.
He's in a contract year. He's about to get paid. He wants to get paid absurd money,
He's
but
try-
I think he's going to get paid. Probably something mid-season. He'll probably get a contract extension. But 85 or more receptions back-to-back years, 1,000-plus yards and 5 touchdowns back-to-back years. Just hashtag interesting stat right here. 24 missed tackles. That's kind of when you said dominate. I was just thinking about Kittle, but he's a man of his own.
Yeah,
But
he's a
when you talk
stud.
about
I was like, dude, no one can dominate like Kittle.
kind of dominate.
Kelsey.
When he dominate, George Kittle forced 20 missed tackles. That was the most for wide receivers or tight ends. I mean, that guy's just a savage out there. I think, I think it's kind of Kelsey and then Kittle. And then, I mean, you know what you're getting with Kittle. He is the one. He is the number one passing option. I feel like in
He
this
is
offense.
number one.
Hey, you guys want to hear some kind of funny? So I just went to PFF and typed in George Kittle. Guess who his comparable player is? It doesn't matter. You'll never guess.
Hulk Hogan.
I was going to say the Ultimate Warrior.
Dog, bro, it's even worse than that. It's Dustin Keller. Who the fuck is that?
He's
Dustin
like 10
Keller.
for, like, the-
It said his
the
best.
Jets.
His- yeah.
He was on the Dolphins for a
Yeah,
year.
no, I'm just kidding. But how are you going to compare Kittle to Dustin Keller, bro? That's fucking terrible.
Well, whoever wrote that is probably related to Helen Keller because he can't see.
Oh, dude, I was gonna say that.
Oh, dude,
Oh,
I
dude,
got
Mike
you,
was-
dude.
Mike was waiting for it.
I was
I mean,
literally
to-
about
I
to
mean,
say Helen Keller.
It was not a flop.
But yours is better. So
yeah, I mean,
good
to
job.
go back, look at this productivity. He's first in yak, 5.3. He's first in fantasy points per game. He's first in target rate. I mean, he's top.
He's first in dead bodies on the field.
Bro, he is top
Yeah.
10 and he's top 10 in receptions, receiving yards, completion, air yards, yak, red zone receptions, total yards, and fantasy points per game.
I think
He is no
Vance-
worse than 8 at any of those positions.
Do you think there's a scenario where he could catapult
Yes.
Kelsey, or do you think it's
Yeah.
just,
I've almost put him at one a few times. I've been like,
especially if Deebo is missing the let's say Deebo's like, oh, he's not coming back to week 3. I mean, is there a scenario where he is that guy who's
I mean, he already out point per game to him last year.
Yeah.
And let's just say the defense is a little bit worse this year, and they throw a little bit more, like maybe 495 times.
yeah.
Second closest to the bottom.
Yeah.
Then
He's
some
just,
of those targets could go. Some of those targets will go Kittle's way. So
organically, it's just going to happen, yeah.
yeah. And then I mean, if there's an emergence of Mecole Hardman over there, and then the running backs between Damian Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire see a jump up in target share. Yeah, he was number 1 points per game last year.
Yeah.
He missed 2 or 3 games, so that's I think he probably would have been the number 1. Because actually, someone pointed out on a different podcast, the 2 games he missed, one of them was against the Arizona Cardinals. So he would have had 200 yards
And 14 touchdowns.
17 touchdowns, and he would have been the number 1 tight end.
The Cardinals
He would have had
last
that in the
year.
first half.
And it was someone else shitty, like the Giants or something like that. It was
Bro.
like 2 terrible teams. So it
The
was
Cardinals were the worst against
Dog,
tight end
AMAC
last year.
could stand on my fucking shoulders and we could play tight end together and we would have balled. Like,
like, you know what? They get to play the Cardinals twice again this year.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Isaiah Simmons now.
yeah,
that's
yeah,
true.
he's
That's a
gonna
good
be.
point.
He's gonna
That's
be.
probably why they got him. They're like, hey, we need you to cover fucking Kelsey.
Every
Kittle.
Every tight end.
He's like, you see Derwin James do the shit he does, like all the
That's
time.
probably why they did it. Like, okay, we were so bad. We needed this guy.
Dude,
They're
you
like,
guys
you're
probably,
a linebacker, safety, D end.
you guys probably still wouldn't be as big as George Kittle if he stood on his shoulders.
No, but
What
we
are you
would.
trying to
we
say,
would-
white boy?
But wait, but we would fucking.
Do you want to get
produce.
slammed to the ground?
No. No, I mean with the thing with Kittle too, they were showing it on the NFL Network. It's not only like his receiving, but his blocking is fucking absurd. Like you saw the clip where he literally drives.
He loves the pancake.
Yeah, he
people.
drives
just
a dude into
destroys
the end
people.
zone, pancakes him, and he's laughing in his face, and he gets up and he's like laughing like it's a toy. So he's
don't
the
know.
reason they're so good, which is why he wants to get paid more than a tight end because
Who's more of a savage, him or Vance McDonald? Would he stiff arm that guy?
I'm gonna say
Nah,
Kittle
Kittle.
on that Saints play. where he fucking got his face mask ripped off.
You're probably right.
But I mean, no, just everything he does for them.
Donald did end the guy's career basically.
Yeah.
He RKO'd someone.
Yeah.
But no, Kittle just what he does for the team overall, as far as like blocking, just teams having to account for him. I mean, teams know he's going to get the ball, and he still shits on them. So,
Dude,
If you didn't know, Dre's a Niners fan. He really loves Kittle.
I mean, Kelsey's still better. He's still better, but I think after next year, Kittle's what, 4 years younger than him.
I
mean,
was
it's
just fucking around because you were going on Kittle for like
George?
a couple minutes.
I fuck with Kittle, but I still like Kelsey, but Kittle's a beast.
yeah, you know what you're getting when you're drafting George Kittle. I mean, it's like it's whether or not you prefer to take
apples-
a tight end.
apples
or
and
that early
oranges.
Or not.
He's a scary monster.
No,
Yeah.
but what's it called?
He's a beast.
Oh, I was gonna say something.
How did he
I
go
can't
in the
remember.
fifth? He went in the 5th round of the NFL draft. That's bananas to me. How, like, I looked at his spark score. He was like He was in the 90th percentile in every single one. 40-yard dash, speed score, burst score, agility score, and catch radius. He's 95th, 100th, 90th, 95th, 96th.
His girl's pretty hot.
Is she?
Yeah, she's pretty hot.
Good for him.
For sure. All right, so this defense, this actually might be one of the only defenses that's
Yeah.
kind of actually worth drafting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, seeing as how dominant they were last year. I mean, you got a Bosa. I know they lost DeForest Buckner.
Yeah, but Javon
But then
Kinlaw.
but then they replaced him instantly in the first round with from South Carolina, the DN, right?
Yeah, you saw he's doing the Aaron Donald workout with the knives.
Yeah. So I mean, this defense is still gonna be pretty good. If there's one, there's probably only a handful of defenses that
with a knife.
that you should actually be like trying to draft, and this is probably one of the only few defenses.
I think that was a joke video. That wasn't real knives.
How do you know? Were you there?
No, I mean,
Because he
'Cause
came
they
out
say
and
two is
said it
more
on,
than one,
he
Michael,
said
too.
it on a show once that like they weren't real knives.
well, I mean, I don't know if they're real knives or not. That shit still looks scary though.
Okay, sorry.
No,
But
he's
defense-
a beast. I mean,
Michael's probably like, dude, they're not even real. Those aren't even real knives.
those are fucking toy knives, bro.
Sorry.
Are those weren't his real hands?
I'm derailing what we're talking about. Defense. I don't
Defense wins knives.
So with the Niners defense, I mean, are they do you think they're a defense that's good enough for you to take like earlier than like the 15th round? Like, do you take them over a player?
I think they're going to be one of those defense that someone's
He's
going to
gonna go
take
and
them
get?
in the top 10 rounds. So I
And
don't
guess
think
what?
any of us are
Your
going to end up with the
boys-
Niners defense.
So like
because
Wanger.
I'll take the Steelers defense early. That's about it.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's so weird.
I'll take the Steelers defense.
Yeah, I mean
I
it's
think
not
it's defense
because
the one defense that might slip to a point where I'm like, okay, I can fuck with this spot.
I could fuck with this.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
maybe they're defensive 6 or 7. You get people taking Patriots, maybe people take the Bears, the Niners, maybe like one or two, couple other teams, and I'm like, dude, I can fuck with the Steelers right here.
Hey, I see you, Ivan and Sebastian Janikowski. It was not a flub.
that was literally
It
the
was
very
not a
beginning.
flop.
That was early.
That was so. That
How
was
long?
in
I
the
don't know.
beginning of the podcast.
How would I
That's
know?
weird.
There-
Why
is there a
is everyone
timestamp?
so
Yeah,
fucking
there's-
stupid?
Where's our timestamp?
No, but
where
we
there's two, there's always
acknowledged
one timestamp.
we acknowledged it
is there?
at the very beginning.
I don't know, man. I've heard the flub thing for like 30 minutes. I don't know.
Okay, I think I'm gonna start sitting like this the whole podcast.
Honestly,
I
your
kinda
voice.
like
you
it.
talk better into the mic like that. You should do it.
I just need like a Jarvis to look up stats. Jarvis
with your phone underneath it.
Jamie, like from fucking
What
Joe
is-
Rogan's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Dog, we're more popular than Joe Rogan's podcast.
Sure. All right, that was it for the NFC West right there.
Little wrap up for you.
Let's see. Hey, who wins the NFC West? What do you guys think?
The Cardinals.
Oh, say less.
I'm gonna say the Cardinals.
I'm gonna go with the Seahawks.
All right, actually, how about this? What's your NFC? What's your NFC West bold
That's
prediction?
I just felt like doing that. That's my pick.
Just one. What is it?
I
NFC
think
West
they-
bowl prediction.
It could be anything. It could
The
be player
Cardinals-
related, team related. Like, what's just like your
I
one?
think I
bold-
said
so
it.
many that
I
just
s-
jumped
I
into
s-
my brain.
I said it earlier in the podcast, and I'm gonna say it again. I think the Cardinals have the offense that everybody's expecting the Buccaneers to have.
So
This
what's
is
your
bold
so is that your bold
Explosive.
is that your bold prediction?
Yeah, I think that their offense is
gonna be
more
top five?
explosive than the Buccaneers. Let's just
Okay,
say
so I'm gonna put what's your? Are they top 5 or top 10?
top 7.
Top 7. Ooh, okay. Top 7. So
middle.
that's your bold. Okay, they're
Yeah.
gonna finish a top 7
7.
offense. Okay.
Top
I'm
8.
gonna go Robert Woods finishes as a top 5 receiver.
Ooh. Okay.
Whoa.
I'm gonna say that 3 teams from the NFC West make the playoffs.
I'll say that
can follow
DeAndre
that.
Hopkins doesn't finish as a top 10 wide receiver.
Ooh.
Whoa.
What?
Wait, can we
That's
write
a
all these
bold
down?
prediction. What? That is.
Wait,
that is
someone
bold.
write these down.
That is bold. That is bold.
Someone write these down.
How
These
about
are
we
good.
just look at the end of the episode?
Okay.
No, I got you. No, I remember. So Mike. No, I remember. Mike, you're saying
As
Cardinals.
if it's
like the
not.
very
As
end.
if we're not recording this.
No, so you said
Hey,
Cardinals.
it's gonna get lost.
Cardinals are top 7. Robert Woods is top 5. D-Hop isn't top 10, and I say 3 teams make the playoffs.
All right, I like it.
I like it.
Fucking play that outro music, dude. Let's do this.
Fucking drop
Dude,
that
then
beat,
we're gonna
T.
go world famous when all those predictions come right.
Dude,
Bro, you know what we're gonna do? Clip that shit.
we're gonna clip that
Clip
shit,
that shit.
idiots.
That shit.
We told you.
And we'll tell you.
When nobody else was telling you, we told you.
They're
Thank
gonna
you.
be like, prove it. I'll be like, okay, look.
Go ahead,
Thank-
Mike. Sorry.
Listen, thank you for listening to the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast. This is episode, I think, 28. It might be 29.
So I
I can't
think it's
remember.
3.
Season 3. That was the NFC West. We're gonna do more of these division breakdowns. We kind of do it. I don't know if we've done it this way before. I don't know, but we're gonna do more of them. So
Tune in.
expect them soon. I'm gonna clip all these and throw them on Instagram. So if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter.
Fuck with
leave
us.
us a review on the Apple Podcast app. Rate us, all that good shit.
Let's see what else we got.
I don't know, what else? What else?
Hey, we didn't forget. We're still gonna do the 40-40 yard dash.
We do need to do that. It's
Just
hot
we're
as
not.
fuck,
Listen,
though. I
we're
don't
not.
wanna-
Yeah, we're gonna die. We're not gonna do it right now. It's
Look at those
140.
explode in our hands.
It's 140 degrees
It's
outside.
so hot. But wouldn't that be nice? You do a 40-yard dash and you cool off with a nice cold
40?
40 ounce.
Yeah, honestly, it's so hot out. By the time we're done running, that shit will be hot.
What would you pick for your 40?
I would.
I think it's
Like out of us 4.
A 40? Fuck, man. I think my body's just
A
used
Miller High
to doing.
Life?
Miller
I
High
think my
Life for me,
body's
yeah.
used to old English. I'll just throw up.
No, what's the green one?
Mickey's? Fuck
Oh,
that.
I like the green one, yeah.
the Hornet.
Yeah, I'm good on
Yeah.
that, bro.
I'm a bee. I'm a stain.
I thought you were more like an ND 2020 guy, but
No, I like the green one.
all right, well,
But yeah.
for sure.
All right,
So
yeah.
look out for
cheers.
that. Thanks for listening.
Small
We're
cheers.
out. Little boys. Bye-bye.
Guadalajara.
Hollywood.